Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Mindgasms podcast. I'm going to talk to, I hope I pronounced your name correctly here.
You can just call me Dave, man. That's a fake name online. Yeah, just call me Dave. It's all good.
Appsii Lute, is that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're in Australia, right?
Yep. Yep. So
Okay.
it's what is it? It's around about noon over here at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, it's about 7 p.m. here.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
yeah, so I'm in a little city called Adelaide, which is on the south coast of Australia. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a great
Cool.
place.
All right. So yeah, we're going to talk about some awesome stuff like psychedelics and ancient civilizations, like we were
We may
talking.
as well be. We should be wearing tie dye, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, for
and
sure.
like get like some skulls in the background, and
Yeah, I
you
have
know.
a tie-dye shirt, but I'm not wearing it.
Yeah, I had one. I haven't got one at the moment, so yeah, we'll
Yeah,
make do. I'll put on some raving costumes if the conversation gets stereotypical enough. But I hope it does.
yeah,
I fucking love these conversations.
yeah. So yeah, like I was saying before we started, we could talk about stuff like DMT and ayahuasca and mushrooms and
Mm.
like how psychedelics have impacted ancient cultures seemingly too, and like you were just talking
Yeah,
about
that's a
before we
massive one.
started to.
I hadn't
For
thought
sure.
about the old yeah, the psychedelic history
Yeah, yeah,
narrative. That's a good combination of the two of them, which yeah, is just great. Yeah.
yeah. And like you were talking about before we started, like Göbekli Tepe and archaeology and how like what Graham Hancock talks about with how
Hmm.
ancient Egypt might be a lot older than a lot of mainstream archaeologists say. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, before we start, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself there?
Well, one thing I'm not is I'm not an expert on any of this stuff.
Yeah, me
But
neither.
it'll be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the moment, I just finished up. I had a small underground bar in Adelaide for a little bit called Ancient World. That was like a what was it? I mean, how do you describe it? So like a dive bar with music. It was like a lot of techno, a lot of rock music, sort of. It's a thing called doll wave here, and rock music and hip hop. It's just a varied space. I did that for the last
Okay.
4 years.
What's
Before that,
Doe?
so doll waves like I mean that's sort of like it's a really hard term to sort of. Okay, in Australia, there's like if you're on the dole, you're on like benefits. You're unemployed, and you got like
Oh,
some sort of
okay.
benefits. That's the dole. We call it the dole. Like, you get doled out your money. So doll wave was kind of like a Australian. It's kind of like low fidelity recordings, big on cassettes. Like that's still do like kind of gritty, kind of like a punk aesthetic with more sort of a rock sort of thing.
Okay.
There was a couple. I don't know. I mean, I'm just sort of using that as a loose term because some of the crew that played a fair bit was sort of in that sound a while ago. Nowadays, they're more kind of country sort of vibes. But
Oh,
anyway, so yeah, it was just a varied space with a lot of different things. I did that for the last 4 years, and before that, I was in omega-3 fatty acid nutrition research,
oh,
mostly
cool.
clinical trials, but essentially just operating a gas chromatography machine was the basics of it. Before that, I did biotech degree, so I got a bit of genetics knowledge, but a lot of it has evaporated. Um, and yeah, right now I'm just fucking working out what to do next. Like maybe start a business or just yeah, I really don't know. I've got a bit of time up my sleeve, so I'm just basically having chats with people and trying to work out a plan of attack and yeah, work out where to go from here. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
you caught me at a good time. I can hang out all fucking day if I want.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize you had such an interesting history with science too. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's where I cut my teeth and stuff, I guess. I mean, I just reached that point. I think I was in there for 7 years, so it was like the definition of the 7 year itch of just like, it was just like, ah, lab stuff. Like I hit a point where I was in it for such a long time. I just got really quiet over it. It was just like I wasn't performing great anymore, and just sort of like, yeah, I just needed that next challenge to keep me going. And it just so happened that a mate of mine, he ran a bunch of events and stuff in Adelaide, and there was this opportunity to open up a bar. It's just like, fuck it, okay, may as well give it a go. And it was great. You know, didn't make heaps of money off it or anything, but met heaps of people and had a great time. And, you know, it's one of those ones like good for the karmic bank. And yeah, I'm definitely living a way better life by doing that than if I just knuckled down and took antidepressants or some shit. You know?
Oh yeah. Well, good for you for making that change. Those are like completely different ways to operate in your life, and I think that it sounds like they offer some really great different experiences too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it all builds up over time. You know, there's the constant worry, I guess, about, you know, do you want to be the hedgehog or the fox? You know, like the hedgehog knows a lot about one thing, the fox knows a little bit about everything, and there's the old expression, jack of all trades, master of none, and, you know, often gets disparaged and stuff. I'm holding out hope that having, you know, doing a bunch of random shit will all come together at some point in time. But, you know, we haven't seen that yet. I'm holding out hope. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I always have that struggle too. Like I get really interested in one thing, and then I just get interested in like a dozen different things at once, and I get this pressure to even if it's like a cultural pressure or something like that, to focus on one thing. But then I'm just interested in so many other things that I think, yeah, but I want to focus on all of them.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? And it's sort of, and especially, I think it can be, I don't know if it's for you, but if you sort of like, you see a bunch of projects that you've started and they're unfinished, can be like, oh, you know, like it doesn't feel good to see that, you know, like you got to tick off at least a couple of them. I found that at least helped with me was being locked in. Like, you know, if you got a bloody, you know, a contract and a lease or whatever, it's just like, well, you know, it's been a shit month, but got you know, another 3 years of this, so you just need to get past it. Like the lock-in factor of small business was an interesting component I didn't think about before entering it. Like, you know, it's like if I was, because, you know, I like doing, you know, different bits of art as well, and if, you know, I'm not having a good day, you know, making some art, it's like, fuck it, I'll just leave that, you know, come back to it in a couple of months. But being locked in with like a you know, a contract that's been signed and you have to make the rent and stuff, I found that to be really good. I like more than I expected to sort of get past that sort of like, oh yeah, this is all exciting, you know, this is great. And then it's just like, you get that slump of just like, oh, what am I doing? I've got no idea what I'm doing. Like, you know, this is a failure. And, you know, just having to go past that and, you know, get onto the other side of that is pretty good, I'd say. I got a million of fucking incomplete projects and a million different things. It's just like, check them off gradually over time, you know, hopefully they'll extend our life spans, you know, with some robotics or some shit. And
that's pretty awesome.
Become a potter when I'm 145.
That sounds awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah,
that sounds similar with like when you were saying when you're locked down. I guess I haven't experienced that myself in terms of the sort of work related things that I like to do that are the things that I prefer to do that are more creative, because I haven't had much success in them yet. But I like doing lots of writing, for example. So I was thinking when you were saying that if I had a book contract, for example, for a novel that I've been writing for like several years, I've started getting through the final edit of it lately more slowly, since I started doing like podcasts and videos and writing blogs and short stories and poems. So writing my novel is like one of the several things I do. But if I had a book contract, I think I would probably just focus on that and get it done, and just put all the other stuff on hold for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I'm sure you'd find though that with your writing, that you'd have a conversation in a podcast, or you'd write like a little, you know, a funny thing for social media or whatever, and it's all going to tie back into the book eventually. Seems like, you know, especially first book, you got to really let it gestate, it seems. What's it? Is it fiction or non-fiction, or what are you?
It's a novel I'm writing I called it The Cold Darkness of the Night, just because I thought it sounded cool mostly.
Yeah, it's pretty
yeah, but it's basically it's about this guy who basically used to be a mob enforcer, and he basically gets out of that world when his daughter gets pregnant with their, or sorry, his daughter gets pregnant. I mean, his wife gets pregnant with their daughter.
Yeah. Okay. Classic.
And but then he basically gets pulled back into that world when his daughter gets kidnapped, and then he gets involved with these assassins who I introduce first, and then they search for them and they do lots of badass violent shit, like while trying to
So
find his daughter,
he's
basically.
finding the assassins to help get his daughter back.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, the assassins are like,
The assassins work for his uncle, who is the mob boss who he was working for when he was an enforcer.
okay.
Yeah.
And does he have conflict with his uncle? Like, is there, is his uncle just like, yeah, I'll help you out, or is it like, oh,
Yeah.
you left the game, now we gotta,
No, his uncle's kind of more of like a father figure in a
I
way.
see. Yeah, you Obi-Wan Kenobi sort of thing. You got to get him. So like the uncle gives a gift or something, it's just like, here's the wisdom of the ancients. Like here's a fucking sweet pistol or some shit.
Yeah, like he's basically this stereotypical like old kind of like Italian style mob boss, almost like the Godfather or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could chuck in some stuff like, is there a rival? There must be a rival gang, yeah. Are there rivals like the sort of, and they're like ethically less sound, like maybe they're like selling drugs to 5-year-olds, and so look at those guys, we don't do that, we've got our honor, show that sort of thing, or cool. I mean, it sounds like a fun book.
Yeah, I really enjoy writing it for sure. That's usually the type of writing that I prefer doing, even when I'm writing short stories and stuff too. I just kind of follow the flow, but it usually ends up being like something about killers killing each other and shooting each other, or like aliens or monsters or something like that. Yeah.
Who's that? Did you read that dude? I think it was like Ice Station by Matthew Riley. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that.
It's like it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a while ago. It was like one of those ones which maybe it was even like late 90s or something. I got it, my old man passed it to me when I was younger. He's like, check this out. It's just like, it's an action movie in a book. It was just in every airport, because it's complete like trash reading in terms of, you can just get through the whole book really quickly. It's just like, there's grappling hooks, there's mutants, there's like army things, and it's just, it's super fun. And then he did another one after that called Temple, and it was like, he kind of became self-aware more aware about how ridiculous he was, and went too ridiculous, when it's sort of is that fine line where he's still taking himself seriously with Ice Station. I recommend checking out for just like a fun, like, if you want a book to read in like a loud, engine room, it's like, it's that engaging where it's just like, it's pretty fun. I haven't read it since I was a kid though. But yeah, man, I'm the same. I love that type of stuff, like there's just something about like seeing like your strongman figures, and it's just like, oh yeah, like this bad shit happened to your life, and it's like, okay, well now I got to kill like 50 people and steal a tank, and I know how to fly a helicopter already because like I learned those skills just in case this shit happened, that kind of stuff. I love that shit. It's great.
That's awesome, man.
I started learning how to lockpick recently, just so I've got that skill just in case.
That's cool.
Like, it's good, man. I recommend it.
I'm writing down that book, by the way, too.
Which one? Oh, Ice Station, dude. Like, it's not some like cultural, masterpiece, but it's fun. Like, it is fun. Like, read it when you're like, it's a book that you can read if you haven't had coffee all day, and like it's engaging. Like, you can just page turn it. Like, you don't have to think about it. It's it's pulp fiction, I guess. I think that's the term that they used back in the day.
Well,
but it's fun.
It's my favorite movie.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. It's a classic. Yeah. Well, we should get on to one of the topics that this has been advertised for.
Whichever one you want to talk about first.
Well, I've been getting into the Atlantis stuff recently. Like, have you seen the Bright Insight ones of Atlantis?
No, I haven't.
There's a couple videos. I'll give you a little summary. But I recommend checking them out. Like, they're They're just really fun videos. Like,
Are those by that ancient architects guy?
no, it's this guy called, oh, what's his name? He's like Jimmy. He's got a YouTube handle called Bright Insight. He
Okay.
does a bunch of different topics. He always does this shit where it'll be like because I subscribe to him. I'm a big fan. I've watched most of his videos, and it'll just pop up on my phone. And it'll be like Bright Insight, and it'll have like the heading, and I'll just be like, oh, what the fuck? This is going to be bullshit. Like this time he's going to jump the shark. It's going to be some absolute nonsense, you know? Like the one popped up the other day and it was like, you know, like giants, like what's the historical, you know, like were there giants kind of shit? I'm just like, oh, fucking hell. Like, because giants, like you always see that in those, like, you know, those really bad photoshopped sort of memes of just like, you know, like they found all these giant bodies and like the government fucking, you know, sort of stuff. But then, you know, you watch the video and he does this thing about giants and he's just like, well, you know, like there is gigantism, like, you know, you can have like a hormone problem, you can, but it's like, you know, he just breaks down these people say that this was built by giants, but if you look at the staircase, you know, that's for normal leg. Like he's good. He reels it in. He's like, he's wild and he'll be like, maybe it could be like that, but he's sort of like, yeah, I don't know. He's that right balance for me. Like really good stuff. So he's recently done one on Atlantis, which is sick. And like again, it popped up on my phone. It's just like, you know, Bright Insight, like they found Atlantis, and I'm just like, what the, you know, what the fuck is it? Like, you know, but it's yeah, it's really good. It's compelling. Like there's basically a natural formation in Africa. They call it the Eye of Africa. It's a big circle, like about 26 kilometers across. And it's sort of, they think what it was like a volcano, like a big pimple underneath the earth, like a big bit of molten lava coming up. And then for some reason, so it's sort of swirling up and you're getting this big thing with, like, I guess, fluid in the middle there. And then it all just collapsed. So you end up with this like ripple effect where you get like an island in the middle and then sort of like rings around it of land. And so it comes back to these old school recordings of Plato and stuff, and they're basically saying that Atlantis had land in the middle, like an island, a ring around that for like houses, a ring around that for barracks, with like water in between it, and like it was a safe harbor, and they had one outlet to the thing. And it's really compelling, like, because, you know, if you think about, let's say it's Israel, because, you know, there's a lot of debate over the whole Atlantis recordings, because it's like we just have hardly any recordings of some of this stuff, you know. Like if you think about like the burning of the Library of Alexandria and like just paper rotting, you know, and like or word of mouth, like there's only like a couple little fragments of the whole Atlantean thing, but it kind of puts it back. I guess there's an alternative archaeology movement sort of thing going through where this is now combining with, so you know, they find this thing, it matches the geographical formations of what Atlantis is described as. If someone wanted to build what Atlantis is described as having with that formation, with like, you know, waterland kind of vibes, if someone was to build that, you know, like we couldn't even do that with our modern bulldozing technology. It would take us forever, you know. If there is something with that structure, it would make sense that it was a natural formation already. And this one just seems to match it. But now it's sort of like, you know, they're combining with your whole Hancock stuff with the Younger Dryas event, like the whole sort of so, you know, that sort of lines up with that same time frame. And then if you look at the whole Sahara, there's this whole, you know how they do the whole zoom out, look at your big flows of like, if there was a meteorite hit and a bunch of water is evaporated immediately, if there was a huge dumping of all that water.
Do you want to explain the Younger Dryas event for those of those people watching?
This is where you're going to find out how much I'm a pub expert rather than a fucking academic.
I've got like an idea in my basic idea.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think it's like, you know, there's still, look, I should have done some more reading about this before. You know, I think basically my understanding of it as I'm here right now is basically a mass rise of the oceans. So you get like you know, like waters at this level, and then you get this short period of time where it goes up quite a bit. big climate change, and and so the Hancock and that geologist that is friends with
Randall
Carson
Carlson.
Randall, yeah, I think it's
Yeah, yeah,
Randall, isn't it?
Randall Carlson. Yeah.
So they push a lot of the old narrative of like there was a lot of water really quickly. So the whole, which is the whole bits in there, like the Joe Rogan one's amazing, like that
Yeah.
3 hour,
An
4 hour
awesome
one,
one.
like one of
Yeah.
the best Rogans up there with Stamets and stuff.
Did you
But
see that? Did you see that one where he brought in Hancock to debate with
yeah,
I think with
with the
Michael
skeptic,
Sherman?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was great. That was
yeah,
fucking cool.
yeah,
That was, it was just one of those ones where it's like, thank fuck for podcasting. You know, like, you know,
yeah,
back in the day, I don't know why they even have, I mean, I understand, but you know how you get these like academic journals and you'll have like a review or a piece, and then there'll be like a response by someone else, and they're like, you know, in reference to blah blah blah, that whatever is written, and they're just filled with like these little daggers they're just stabbing each other with, you know.
yeah,
But it's these days, just get him in a room and record them talking, you know, like, because I think that's what this podcasting thing has been massive for my sort of, and you're obviously a massive fan as well,
oh yeah,
and the whole community is, you know, is really switched onto it, I guess. But you can just like, you can hear the emotion in them as they talk. It's not like this considered like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pull something like, because okay, so you've asked me about Young Dryas before. If this was text, I'd just be like, oh yeah, I'll just go copy and paste some shit. But you know,
yeah,
like you find
exactly.
out how much. Look, I'm a novice, you know. But it's
Yeah,
yeah, that was great because they brought up all these things, and Sherman was just like, oh okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that. And it's like, or like he raised these different things, and he'd just be like, yeah, but that's because of that. And they were like, no, check out this. Like we've got these, because they had those silica, the melted silica, was it? Like you get these little, I think these little tiny round things that form if you get extreme heat. And I think
oh yeah,
it
like
appears,
the stuff that's supposed to come from volcanic ash or something, or volcanic
yeah. Well,
eruptions.
I think it's just like if you hit like a couple, you know, a couple thousand degrees probably in temperature, you can form these silica crystals. And I think they find them after nukes and stuff. Probably
Right.
volcanic as well would be another one where it's hitting that temperature.
Yeah,
And then there's also a meteorite hitting, and just that impact around that sort of
right.
spot would just create enough heat, which
And
would
that's part of
then
the younger
scatter it
event
and
too,
come
right?
down. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's, I think they're pushing the whole meteorite hit an ice shelf narrative, what
yeah,
I can gather.
yeah.
Like, so it's sort of like bam, heat, a bunch of ice evaporates really quickly. You've got all this water in the sky, and then that just all dumps out because you know it wasn't natural condensation. It'd be the biggest rainfall that anyone's ever encountered because you need a huge lump of rock coming in
Right.
from space to liberate it all.
And that was
And that's,
like 12,000 years ago or so.
yeah, I think like 12, 11, around
Yeah.
that sort of range is like is generally which you know like matches up with if there was a prehistoric civilization. I think your Sphinx water erosion starts to appear around there if you take the Hancock analysis of it, which you know I'm
Right.
no fucking geologist, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's at least worth checking out, you
Yeah.
know, like
Well,
it's
it's like when Robert Schoch talks about the water erosion on the Sphinx that had to have happened when the Nile Valley was in a rainfall environment. It's that
yeah.
similar to that. Like I'm not a geologist either, but that sounds really compelling too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of really good YouTubers on this. I mean, it seems to be, it's something that just suits YouTube so well
Yeah.
to just have these fringe dudes just like, you know, just going nuts. Like, have you seen
Yeah.
what's his name? I think it's Koss, Kos, Charles Koss, Robert Koss. Let me find out. There's this Australian dude, and he did this. He just, yeah, Koss archaeology. Let me just find his name for you. Yeah, Charles Koss. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Kos.
No, I haven't
Um,
heard of him.
he's worth checking out, but he's a loon. Like he's a complete loon. But it's great. Like, you know, but it's sort of like, so he'll do one video and it's like, because have you seen much of the Machu Picchu stone comparisons?
A little bit, not very
Yeah,
much.
the Machu Picchu's a great one. Like that's one of the ones, you know, I'll treat this as sort of like a primer for how to have a pub conversation about ancient archaeology.
Yeah.
You want to bring out your Machu Picchu because it's visually really it's fun. You know, it's fun to think about. So the whole thing is like, oh well, the Incans made Machu Picchu. They retreated up there and shit like that. That's the conventional narrative. But if you look at Machu Picchu, there's two very distinct types of building. There's a lower, so there's what was, and it gets explained in some different ways. Some people say that they ran out of time and they had to switch to an inferior method, which is possible, but we haven't seen any evidence of how they actually did the other stonework while we can explain the second type. But you get those classic stones, which are just like, like an angle there, an angle, it's got like 7 different angles cut. Right. And it's fitting perfectly with every other rock around it. Like it's just been cut like butter and just slid in there. It's incredible. And it's like, we haven't seen any evidence that was built by the Incans. And, but on top of it, you get all these a rock and mortar style. So it's not just like perfect. It's like, okay, make a slurry, pack it around the rocks and sort of build it, which requires a lot less technical ability. Where was it going with that one? But Machu Picchu is like, and okay, so yeah, I guess that where to tie it back to
how Machu Picchu is also supposedly much older than mainstream archaeology.
Yeah, I mean, oh, that's right, the cost and stuff. Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. So there's this whole theory so this is a classic costs one. Bright Insight get into it a little bit. Hancock's definitely on that sort of thread. They have their different sort of levels of how much they push it. There is, and this is where it gets like a little bit airy-fairy at times, but there's this whole narrative.
We already talked about Atlantis.
yeah. Oh, dude, Atlantis is legit. Check it out. Look into it, man. You got to look into it. There's this whole theory that, okay, so the Incan architecture parallels this stuff that they find in Ireland, parallels this stuff that they find in Egypt, and this whole concept of a worldwide network of a society that existed, and these were what they produced and stuff, and they got wiped out by this extinction event. Possible, at least trade, I think might be possible. I mean, you can imagine people cruising across in boats. I mean, like in Australia, like there's records of, I think the Portuguese came here, they were trading with the Papua New Guineans up north, and that was like, Stone Age level. They could cruise across on these longboats and catamaran type vibes. You could see that there would have been, if there was a really, really advanced culture and they did have some, I mean, if they can make stonework like that, they could work out a boat, surely, it's like, so I don't know. I just don't know how much I fall for because there's this whole narrative that it was the time of the Atlanteans, and it's like, these videos, like, check out this like Atlantis jewelry they found in Ireland, and it's just like, like jewelry does looks a little bit South American, like there could be some crossovers there, but maybe like it wasn't like they're all like unified with like the internet vibes. It's like someone's trading some scrolls or some shit going back and forth. But actually, that's one that is worth checking out for Charles Cost though. Who's take it all with a grain of salt. He's a big one. So he's got this narrative that Australia is so flat, and like he's good because he's just like, here's an idea, like just throws it out there. He's got this one that Australia's so flat because it was all mined by the ancients. So that there used to be mountains, and the mountains all got mined, and everything was extracted from it, which is why it's so flat. So well, there would be mountains, but like it's like like that's pushing it. Like, he has these weird theories, but you need those people to just get the creative juices flowing. But he's got a lot of work from going to Ireland and taking photos, and there's some. It's like Ireland, I'd always sort of thought like, yeah, I'd love to go. It'll be green. I'll drink some beers. Like the people are friendly. Like it'll be a good trip. It'd be a fun place to visit. But after seeing some of these videos, man, it's just like Ireland has some incredibly old ruins and stuff that I haven't considered it to be like a real, like some of the oldest history in that whole region is like all in these. They've got these like really prehistoric prehistoric stones and stuff. And this Cost points out some really interesting stuff as well, which is important to sort of think about how we think about if there was, let's say there was let's take the hypothesis there was a civilization that came before us, got wiped out by a meteorite. Let's say it's a pre-plastic, maybe they've reached iron age, maybe some basic machinery, but everything corrodes, you know. Let's say they hit that sort of level, just for the sake of argument. Artifacts that are scattered on the ground, you know, with like a collapsed society and everyone's starving to death and a huge population thing, everyone's just grabbing everything. Like no one's just like, oh yeah, you can't burn those scrolls for fire.
Think about like the people thousands of years from now.
Yeah. No one's thinking that, you know. And like gold artifacts. Like I would love, like anytime you see like a bit of gold, like how good would it be to have like some machine you put it in and it's just like, this was, you know, this bit was a part of this person's ring. And before that, it was like an ingot, which was like taken across the ocean from like gold just keeps on circulating and circulating. It's been melted down a million times. Any bit of gold you see must have a fascinating story that would go back, you know, from it be sitting on the surface of the ground and someone's like, that's shiny, I'm just going to grab it, to like, you know, thousands and thousands of years of cycling through. Humans have always had this affinity towards shiny stuff, I guess. But yeah, I mean, everything would just be broken down and reused. If you're in a tough spot, and it's hard for us to imagine that when we're just, you know, we're sitting here on the computer, we're not worried about like raiders coming over the fucking hill and killing us and stealing our crops or anything, you know. It's exactly. But like, so Ireland's got all these really interesting examples of it'll be like this old church, and you can really see, like, it'll be big blocks for the doorway, and then you can kind of see like, which is kind of your old school style of building doors, which is how like Costa describes that as the Incan look, you know, wider at the base, small at the top. You know, but really, like, if you're making a doorway out of rocks, you probably can't do it too many ways. Like the Incan way is probably, you're going to stumble upon that if you. So you know, I'm kind of like, it could be like some cross-cultural thing, like, but yeah. But anyway, they'll find these churches, and they're just fucking like, you know, they built a church, but that used to be like their fortifications, you know. So they're just like, oh yeah, we got peace, we beat those guys over there, okay, we'll rip down these rocks now, we'll put them over there. And in some of these churches you just find like these like perfect square, like, you know, just really nicely carved stones, just in the middle of like stuff where someone's just hitting stuff with like a bigger rock, you know, and just jamming it in there. And it's just like everything would be kind of digested, and like, I guess that's why the pyramids are so fascinating, because who the fuck's tearing those down to build like a wall to stop someone attacking? Like, they're just too big. But so much stuff would have just been torn down, because it's like, we're getting attacked here. We need rocks to throw at the enemy. Yeah, tear down that you know, that big tablet which has every language we've ever known and every piece of knowledge that we ever have, and let's just chuck these rocks at these guys' heads and hopefully we'll survive, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they're huge. Those are huge monuments, like built by the Egyptians, or I mean possibly an older culture like you were talking about. And I'm glad that you brought up like you mentioned some ancient form of machinery that would have like parts that corrode too, because that's one point that I don't know if you've read it, but I think it was Robert Bauval's Lost Technologies of Ancient Egypt that I read recently.
No, I haven't read it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. He basically kind of explores that theory about how one of the tools that the Egyptians could have used to build those structures is some sort of a form of like rudimentary machinery with like pulleys and stuff like that could have made it easier to move the blocks, for example, and stuff like that. And yeah, when you were talking about gold, you reminded me of another like really like almost crackpot theory. That theory about
Anunnaki,
the Anunnaki theory and 12th Planet, how they wanted to come to Earth to mine our gold so they could put it around their atmosphere to prevent it from being destroyed from global warming. And that movie or that book 12th Planet, Have you read that book? Because when I read
No,
it,
I
I
haven't.
thought the
Yeah.
stuff about the ancient civilizations, like the Mesopotamians and whatnot, was
Yeah.
really interesting. But then it was just like it
Just gets
was
wild
just
real
like
quick.
yeah, it gets
Like,
crazy from there.
yeah, like they've got the technology to do all this shit, and they just don't come up with like automated robots. Like
Yeah,
you really want like the slaves getting your gold to be killing each other, to just be
yeah.
inefficient, to like
I think there was
take entire 1,000 years off in islands.
I think there was an ancient architects video that I watched about that too, actually, where he's talking about that very theory, like the 12th planet theory, and he was saying that
Hmm.
apparently, I forget the dude's name who wrote the book, but apparently he kind of like mistranslated and misinterpreted
Mm.
a lot of the ancient writing and stuff like that. So apparently, according to
Yeah.
more modern scholars who study that stuff, there are a lot more different interpretations that probably make
Mm.
more sense, which made sense when I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the big problem with translating and stuff. It's
Yeah,
like they still. It's. I mean, you're always going to have your own bias that you put on it. I mean, the Dead Sea Scrolls. That was what a classic that was when that came out. That would have been like the
yeah,
Göbekli, back then sort of thing of like holy shit. Because you've seen like the Wasson or the Gordon Wasson stuff. Here's a little segue for the podcast and
yeah,
business, or the magic mushroom cult stuff with like early
yeah,
Christianity and everything.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Oh man, I'm glad
seems
you
legit.
brought that up. Yeah, that's one of the things that Joe Rogan talks about, right?
Yeah,
I forget
you just
what
got
the
to talk
dude's
about
name
like
is, but
shaved chimpanzees now.
yeah,
We'll talk about shaved chimpanzees and
I
then
forget
then we'll.
what that guy's name was, but that guy who wrote Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, who was the only who I think he was the
Oh
only
yeah,
member of
who's
the
that?
original people who discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls who was agnostic, and his interpretation, his translations were different from the other
Allegro.
ordained
Yeah, I just
ministers.
looked it
Yeah,
up.
who
Yeah,
was oh sorry, what's the name?
John Allegro, John
John
Marcus Allegro, is
Allegro.
that his name?
Yes, yes, John Marco Allegro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Marco. Yeah.
And he was, and so how his theory, how his translations were different from the ordained ministers who were discovering them with him. Their translations was that he thought that early Christianity was all fertility cults and psychedelic
Mm.
rituals, which is
Yeah.
fascinating to think about.
Which is great for stoner conversations. I
Yeah,
mean that
exactly.
meme's going far. Like there's some academic out there, talking about the significance of like the barley crop, but no one's sitting around like a campfire talking about that, or But
Exactly.
it's yeah. I mean, it's a pretty compelling argument. I mean, like you just got to think about like, okay, you're in the middle of the Stone Age. I mean, not Stone Age. You're in. Let's call it around, the sort of, let's call it around 0 BC, around that sort of era.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you haven't, I mean, what the hell did they think psychedelics were? Like what the
They
hell
could
is
have thought they were
happening that,
magic, man. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, and they are in a way. I mean, it
yeah.
just kind of like, this is kind of gets into, you can, go full Peterson on this. Is like, well, define magic, it's like if they were thinking like a magic spell involved, like having visions and stuff like that, and that was just, that we've got a pharmacological explanation for it. Still kind of, like you can kind of both be right in a little way. It is a weird fucking
Yeah.
thing that humans do,
Yeah.
combined with different plants.
Well,
And
that's
yeah, I'm
another thing that like that's another perspective that Joe Rogan talks about too. It's like, yeah, there are a lot we know now that there are a lot of like biological explanations for what happens when you eat mushrooms or something like that. But if you've
mm,
actually eaten mushrooms and you've like totally tripped out on mushrooms, then you know that you can literally feel like you are literally experiencing a different reality than the normal one that people normally experience. And it can be easy, especially when you're thinking about people who don't have that scientific knowledge way back then, how they could think that these things are actually happening when you take those psychedelics.
yeah, definitely. And you can kind of see that sort of that same. I mean, picture a whole bunch of different personality types, and they encounter something and it has that effect, and they work out how to do it. They work out the combination of plants. They work out, you got to pick this mushroom or whatever. I guess it's going to be different in different phases, because you get, I think what would have happened probably is you're going to get your whole, I mean, it still happens in South America and stuff, where you get mushrooms and they're just growing. You know, it's just like, it would have been the first intoxicant. You don't need to worry about fermenting some honey, or, you know, rain getting into a beehive and dilutes it, and then yeast form and alcohol. Like, alcohol's way later, you know.
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
stuff that you can just pick and eat is like, that's your foundation. And which is mushrooms. There's, I mean, ayahuasca, like you're having to brew that up. You have to put it with 2 different plants. No one's making a resin.
MAO inhibitor vine too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Cappy, yeah, Beniferous Cappy, I think it is. Yeah, I always forget. It's one of those things which, you know, I grew up reading online, so I never worked out how to pronounce. but yeah, you know, those aren't coming first. Like, first off is got to be your mushies. Like,
Yeah.
and then so you get this whole Hinduism's really good for this as well. Like, hang on, have I accidentally turned this off? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Just a little no mic thing popped up.
Oh
yeah,
no,
I
I
think
muted myself for a second because there was a lot of background noise.
Cool. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Hinduism, like, that one is, I mean, the old texts and stuff from that are just super, super old. No one really knows who wrote a lot of them. And there's heaps and heaps of sort of like magic mushroom sort of psychedelic tripper vibes.
Man,
I mean,
been wanting to get more into those, but I haven't yet.
of like just general Hinduism.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm at pub level Hinduism. Maybe even not pub, maybe pub level 3 a.m. Hinduism. You know, that's about the time where I can sound like I'm intelligent on it. But, you know, I'm the classic, you know, I mean, before podcasts, back in the bad old days, you had to download old Alan Watts talks, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like that's a really great. You would have gone through a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're classic. I mean, and, you know, I have heard criticisms of Watts saying that, like, you know, well, he's not really teaching Buddhism or Taoism or Hinduism. He's teaching his own brand of it. Sure, you know, that's a fair enough criticism. Like, he might have his own bias. I mean, everyone does. But I think some of his breakdowns of Hinduism and sort of like the whole, you know, computer game metaphor, well, he didn't call it computer game, but a dream machine metaphor, now that's turned into the simulation theory, is really just like a really neat metaphor. Yeah, and Hinduism is just sort of one of those ones which just seems to have, like, you know, Buddhism never took off in India because, like, you know, this prince ends up going, like, you know, we just need to meditate and get rid of desires and we'll all be happy. And the Hindus were just like, yeah, cool, okay, that's part of Hinduism. Like, you know, like, you want to do that, like, that's one way you can do it. That's that school, you know, like, if you want to hold your arm up in the air for the rest of your life to show you're devoted to God, that's that school. You can do line some dead bodies over there, you know.
I can easily see how, like, based on the almost nothing that I know about Hinduism, how it could be really attractive to, like, people who are on drugs or people who take mushrooms or something could come up with these ideas. Because,
yeah, I mean, like a whole color festival.
I have like a little statue of a Hindu god in my room that's like the 4-armed meditating elephant. So like, polytheistic god, a polytheistic religion with all sorts of fascinating, like, animal gods and weird blue stuff, and like
the festivals as well, man. The festivals are like, you know, a lot of rave culture can learn a lot from the old Hindus and their festivals. I mean, they've got what is it? Diwali is like the festival of light, so it's just like, get together with your family and mates, like, eat sweets, fire up some fireworks, get some light shows happening. You know, it's a great time. And then there's Holi festival. You would have seen it in like Bollywood clips, maybe. It's just like there's throwing chalk up in the air. It's just like the whole place is just covered with color and stuff. I watch a lot of Bollywood, and like if you watch Bollywood, like, you'll notice in the Holi festival scenes, when they're chucking all this colored chalk up in the air, like, there'll be like a scene and it's like there's this dude, and I mean, like, every Bollywood movie has a love story, like, number one, like, and then if most Bollywood movies will end up having like 3 or 4 sometimes. Like there's the old auntie and the old, like there's old love, there's young love, there's jock love, there's nerd love. You know, it's like it's classic Bollywood trope. But so in I think it's in Mahabateen, which is actually a really good song, and there's a Holly song in it. There's this dude, and he's just like, oh geez, like I gotta go talk to her, but I'm real nervous. And like, you know, the sort of like the uncle character comes in and he's just like slaps him on the back, gives him this like aluminium cup, and the dude just like chugs it, and it's like this yogurty sort of drink just going down his sides and stuff. So that's Bang Lassie, which is just like a weed yogurt drink. So yeah, so it's a massive stoner festival of just like colors, music, and drinking this Bang Lassi. So you know, they've still kept a lot of the cannabis culture at least there. Mushroom culture, I think, seems to be different, at least in. I mean, the mushroom culture I've heard about with India, it seems like it definitely was there. That could be the reason why cows are sacred, because if the cows, if the cow shit is providing you with like you know, the holy shit joke could be the origin. You know, I think that's not a bad theory. I'm definitely not throwing it out yet. I mean, why would you like worship to that level? I mean, it's just like we need everything, every cow we possibly can, shitting out food for mushrooms. Like, don't kill one of them.
Yeah,
like, we need to work some shit out here. It's possible. But there's also old there's these old texts and stuff. So you get these things, which, I mean, this is essentially what most religion is. It always has these elements of it. But there's this one sect of Hinduism I remember reading about in some book to do with mushrooms, and it was like, there's this whole song and poem about like, you know, it's like first, like it, what is it? First it rises from, you know, first it's like an egg, you know, which is like when you get a mushroom just popping out from the pine needles, like, and then it's like, then it becomes like a breast or something, and then a penis and a vagina. So you get that hermaphrodite sort of imagery, which is big in Hinduism. Like the mushroom has like the stalk, but it's going like into the yoni vibes. And then it's sort of, it has wings. And like there's this whole poem about it. And it's like, they must be describing Amanita muscaria, which is your classic toadstool.
Right.
But they've forgotten about it. Like, you know, it's been passed on enough where someone who knows about this mushroom research can be like, yeah, seems like it's a poem that has come from this, but the ritual's been lost. I mean, it's the same as communion and shit, you know? So it's like, hey, have a sip of this wine. Here, put that on your tongue.
Yeah.
You know, right? Everyone's gonna do it at the same time. Like, come on, here you go. Like we're all on the same boat. I've been you know, it's very similar at raves sometimes to communion.
Oh, cool. That reminds me too of like the Amanita muscaria images that you can see that some people have interpreted at least as imagery of the Amanita muscaria mushroom in Christianity.
Yeah, like Christianity. Was it Zeitgeist or something? I think someone had like the whole Santa Claus, Father Christmas.
Yeah. I actually wrote a blog about that a long time ago.
Oh, it was so great, wasn't it? I remember watching that video and I was just like great. Yeah, fuck, this is great. Like, I don't care if it's real or not. Like, I'm loving this. Like,
a red shaman comes with a bag of presents through the hole in your yurt, and he puts these red mushrooms to dry by the fire. Sounds like Santa Claus.
Stock, you know, like you dry it in the stock next to the fire. Oh yeah, of course. Like sometimes if the stock was too big, they'll put it all on a pine tree and let the sunlight dry it. It's just like, oh yeah, Christmas decorations. Like it was so perfect. Like, you know, that one, the whole Siberian Santa Claus idea, wasn't it? Because you do get these different mixes. I mean, like, I don't know heaps about the whole theory about Saint Nicholas and stuff. But it does seem to be, you get these crossovers, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, we've all got like a jolly old man, you know, just pile them all into one, you know, like, which is actually something I think about more and more these days is like kind of like culture editing on purpose, you know, it's just like, because like it happen over time where like you get like some Siberian shaman cruising around picking up mushies with reindeer, you know, it gets combined with like some saint who's giving shit to kids. That gets combined with, like, you know, like it all gets combined over time, like just starting to like just do it on purpose a bit more. Just like, you know, it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, where are you guys from? Yeah, cool. Like, what's your jolly fat man story? So, oh yeah, we'll just chuck that in. You know, make a little show about it or something, or you know, put it in a book. You know, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think like culture editing is like is pretty. It's pretty fun to just sort of think about just smashing it all together. Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely like. I love that Zeitgeist one with the Amanita muscaria stuff. I still never tried Amanita muscaria. I've tried eating it as a food. Like if you heat it up, you can get like an MSG quality from it, like which will
Oh,
make your food taste better. But I've never tripped balls off of Amanita muscaria, and I don't know anyone who's had a really successful trip. All I've heard is people just like, oh yeah, like felt like a little bit, you know, a
oh
little
yeah.
bit funny.
Yeah, I've
Have you
heard
ever
that.
heard of anyone?
No, I've never heard of anyone having a like I don't think I even know anyone who's actually tried them either, but just
Mm.
based on
So
everything I've heard about it, that seems to be common to not trip off it.
yeah, I haven't heard that classic thing. I mean, I don't know if it hits you guys over there, but before the internet was big in Australia, there's you know, like angel trumpets or datura, it's called.
No, what's that? Oh, the
It's like
turret
a
sounds familiar.
yeah, it's what is it? It's not, I think it's tropines or something. It's not hallucinogenic. It's technically called a deliriant because I think it makes you like, you know, it makes you delirious and oh, is it a deliriant or something else? It's not a psychedelic though. It's not a hallucinogen, and it's a really really common garden plant. It's a
Oh,
beautiful
okay.
tree, really common. And I just remember that you know when I was a kid, my mum told me that her auntie had one of these trees, and the flowers just always went missing from it. She was like, "What the fuck's going on?" So it was like before the internet, kids were just grabbing these angel trumpets or datura and just like not knowing what to do because this is one of those ones. This is one of those drugs as well where it's like you won't feel it kicking in, so you might take more. You know, like it
Oh yeah,
takes an hour to kick in,
like
and it's just
edible.
like yeah, yeah. You know, it's like oh yeah, I don't reckon it's doing anything. Let's just have the rest. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, like no one's there. You're talking to like a plant, like pouring yourself another cup. But yeah, it's that level of yeah, people lose their goddamn minds. The worst story. I've never tried it and never will try it because I heard about this dude in Germany who took a strong dose of datura and then got a pair of garden shears from the shed, chopped off his tongue and chopped off his penis,
Holy fuck!
which
Wow.
is yeah, not something you fucking want to wake up from after you know just
No.
having a couple flowers in the back garden. But yeah, where we go from that one? That was oh yeah, that was sorry, that was just datura in terms of more common. Amanita muscaria, yeah, that's super rare, but you can eat it. Like if you see toadstools, don't even worry about the tripping aspect of it because I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's really that worth pursuing when we've if we were
Well,
all like locked in a white
especially
cell and no way of experiencing
yeah.
anything else, would do the Amanita muscaria.
Especially since I've heard, like, for example, apparently you can trip balls if you also drink your own piss. I'm not
Yeah,
sure I could drink
yeah,
my own piss.
that's right. Yeah, they had all those things about the little the fountains. You know, it was meant to be
Yeah,
that in that old Zeitgeist one. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, drink my own piss if it was definitely going to work. it'd be. I don't know. Like, what's the risk reward here, really? You know,
yeah,
like, isn't some next level like the angels are like, hey, you know, time to update the Bible. Here's what you got to do. You know, or is it just like, oh, like my stomach's sore, like I feel dizzy and confused, you know, like
yeah,
there's a lot of different ways that could go.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but but yeah, you can eat them though. Like next time you see some toadstools, grab them and heat them up. I think you just got to look online. You can heat treat them. It's mucinol something. I think is I might be completely butchering that. I think that's the thing which you got to get rid of, and it's heat sensitive. And then you can just eat them like regular mushrooms, and they got like an MSG quality. You can put it in a stew; it'll bring out the flavors in it, that kind of vibes. So yeah, just fun little hint. Are there much whereabouts are you in Canada, man? Like, is it
I'm in Alberta. Do you know
Alberta?
where that is?
No, I'm looking it up right now. I've heard of Alberta a lot, but I don't have a good map in my head of Canada. I'm just looking it up now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
it,
yep. Yep.
yeah,
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of I guess it's one of the southern, well, yeah, one of the western provinces, and we're in the northern part of the province where we are in Fort McMurray. It's
They're pretty cold, yeah.
Above Edmonton, which is the biggest I think it's the capital city of the province. Edmonton is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And so it must be pretty snowy, yeah? Like pretty sort of forest, snow,
Yeah,
pine kind of vibes.
there's a lot of forest around here. Yeah, there's a big forest like a block away from my house.
So Amanita muscaria is around then? Do you get many toadstools?
I'm not sure. I've never really looked that carefully, so I'm really not
Many
sure.
mushrooms at all? I mean, you're going to get less mushrooms, I guess,
Yeah,
when there's more snow
I
around.
have seen some mushrooms before, but they're more of like the ones that the look like the more common stereotypical image, like the little green ones that you can't tell for sure whether they're the psychedelic ones or not, as
Yeah.
far as I know.
Remember that this is a good thing to remember. Every single mushroom is edible, but there's some that you can only eat once.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it because they're poisonous, right?
Yeah, some are. Yeah, I mean, we get what do we get here? The old death caps, and they're kind of like a white. They look pretty stereotypical. The problem, I mean, we get mushroom deaths here once in a while in the state, like once every 5 years or something. Almost always, it's someone who's come over from Vietnam or something, and they see it. It looks like an edible variety there, and they eat it here. Like you get mushrooms. I mean, even death caps will look different in my state than they'll look in another state because there's gradual, subtle variations and the environment
Okay.
changes. And I also heard about someone who had a death cap because it was actually growing inside a puffball. So
Oh,
if you're in a survival scenario, you can eat any puffball, like any of those, puffs out all the spores. They're pretty much all edible. I don't think they found any record of a poisonous one. So if you're lost in the forest and you find puffballs, yeah, they're probably all good. But this person ate a puffball and there was actually a death cap growing inside it, like the mycelium had popped inside it somehow.
oh,
So they
oh,
just like, yeah, that was the other poisoning. But mostly it's misidentification because people think it's an edible from their various regions. Yeah, mushrooms
okay.
picking is pretty big here. Like we get a lot of milk caps, like Terrius deliciousness or something, like Tarius. Yeah, like which is like sort of milk, Latin for milk with delicious. So it's like a
Oh,
milky
okay.
delicious. But the sap's kind of milky on it. You can fry them up with butter. They're pretty good. All the all the Eastern Europeans that moved here in like the 50s, 60s, they've got a big hunting, like foraging culture and mushroom culture. So,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, there's this huge pickling scene, and they all get bought and sold at the markets for like way more than they should be. And there's a pretty big psychedelic mushroom picking scene in the sort of alternative youth culture combined with like there's a hills where hippies are, and they all sort of have them going around there and stuff. But yeah, it's a pretty
Oh,
big
okay.
part of the underground scene here. Like it's around more because of the yeah
Oh, okay. Cool.
yeah, you can definitely see how it would spark. I remember actually I've never done anything illegal, I should say. Like
Oh, yeah, me neither.
so seeing this is going out there, I've never done anything illegal, but friends told me that when they first had it, they were they immediately went into like you got to tell the world about this shit. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
dad, you got to try this. Like just any solution. Like it's like there's just some you hear about some Israeli Palestinian conflict. It's like we just got to get them all taking mushrooms. Like
yeah.
that's the solution. Like just get them all together, get them in a room, get them like it's sort of
Yeah,
that sort of excitement when you sort of first go through it and everything. But I
yeah,
can
for sure.
completely, I'm still, I guess, debating if I am or am not building a religion around it. Like it's just sort of like, okay, I'm just making some art, I'm just making some clothes. Sure, it has a tinge of this sort of thing, but like, yeah, I think early days of Christianity has a lot of that sort of influence in it. It seems, at least, or it was pollinated with another belief movement, which sort of smacked into it because
Yeah,
communion thing, like here, open your mouth, that, sip that, like
yeah.
that was originally partying for sure, like or tripping or some ritual, and it's just like, you know, we can't control these people. Let's swap it out for like a bit of wafer or
Yeah, you
something.
can see that. You can see that influence, how it easily could have influenced like so many different religions so much. Like we were talking about Hinduism and like in communion, and like if you read the book of Revelations in the Bible, that's like a fucking mushroom trip, man. That's why it's my
Absolutely.
favorite part of the Bible, because it's like a 7-headed dragon and
Yeah,
angels killing the dragon and stuff
all
like
the cool shit. Yeah. It's basically like, you know, it's the equivalent of like some scribe back in the day. It's just like, this would be fucking, imagine like, you know, how sick would it be if this dragon comes down? It's just like, you know, I think, what was it, like Leonardo da Vinci's first painting is like, was it Trials of Saint Augustine or some shit like that? I don't know. I'm a savage. I can never remember the details. But you know, like what are all the great painters all start painting first? The horror scenes, you know, the monsters, like the trials and tribulations. It's just like it's heavy metal art of its day, you know, like the Revelations is the Bible part, which is like, that's for your heavy metal art aficionados. It's like the Iron Maiden cover, and yeah, it's fun stuff. You know, you got to take it all with a grain of salt. I mean, I grew up, you know, I mentioned before how with the old, you know, doing a biology thing back in the day, like studying biotech and stuff. So I got like really, well, you know, I had to learn genetics and biotech and biology and stuff. And I was also going through this big phase of like, well, you know, fucking 20, 22, 21, right around that age where you just think you fucking know absolutely everything. And you've got all the solutions to all of the world's problems.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I've just been fed all this knowledge about genetics. So what did I do? You know, I jumped online and I just started attacking Christians. You know, like there'd just be these like raid missions on this whole forum I was in, and it would be like atheists versus Christians, and we'd just be like, bam, like, you know, all right, we're meeting here, we're having a conversation. It's like, yeah, what about this? What about this evidence? Blah 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 blah. And it's just like, and it would just.
Yeah, I used to do that too. Just get up on the soapbox and hate on religion.
I mean, I'm glad I went through it. I'm glad I'm over it though. You know, I distinctly remember someone online back then who was like, like, dude, you're 22, like you've got that feeling, you know everything, and that's all going to change. And it's like, it did, yeah, it absolutely did. You know? Now I'm just dreadfully scared of what I'll get wrong now and have to you know, change in the future and stuff, I guess. But I think there's been a really healthy thing, at least I think it's been healthy with the whole like movement in terms of looking at mythology as sort of like it's a time capsule. It's a way of roughing in some rules. It's a way of organizing a bunch of people. Look, some bad shit's going to come through. There's going to be some stuff that was really relevant, like, you know, like the old hijab thing in Islam and stuff. That was started because it was like there was this one village I think Muhammad rocks up to, and actually this doesn't even mention the hijab, but this mentions a use of clothing to control a situation.
Oh, okay.
Muhammad rolls up in a town, and everyone's like, all these slave women are getting raped, you know, because like, why are they getting raped? Because they don't have toilets in their houses. So if you don't have a toilet in your house and you've got these towns, you walk to the outskirts and you have a field you shit and piss in. You know, the long drop got invented way later. The long drop got invented because of ringworm research. They laid a little turd with ringworm in it, and then they measured how far the ringworm could travel horizontally through the dirt. And then that's the level that they built the toilet to. And I guess they had pits and stuff, but you know, there was a lot of that was all came later. But anyway, back in the day, how do you go to the toilet? You go to a field that everyone shits in, and you shit in the field. So if you need to go during the night, these slave girls were walking out to the toilet, and there'd just be dudes just like hovering, waiting for slave girls to rape them. You know?
Oh
wow. So this is a big problem, and this is kind of. Have you read that book, Debt? The first 5,000 years?
No, I haven't.
Check it out, man. I'm halfway through. It's really good. It's actually surprisingly a lot about slavery. Well, maybe not surprisingly. I mean, debt and slavery are pretty interlinked, but it's a lot of it's the history of slavery through going back to, you know, prehistory times with the Celts and stuff. And you know, how it all ties into money. Really, really good read. I recommend it.
Okay, I'll write that
But
down.
Muhammad basically was just like, okay, so no one's gonna dare rape the noble wives. So what we're gonna do is all the slave girls and the noble wives will all wear the same clothes. And that means that you know, no one's gonna dare rape any woman because they look the same, and they could be raping the you know, the head of the police's wife. In which case, like, you know, they're coming for you and they're going to take your head, you know.
Oh, okay.
So that was the original kind of doctrine in original Quran sort of stuff
That
of
does
how to.
make sense. Yeah.
It makes sense, you know. It's just like, okay, get everyone looking the same, so no one's getting raped. You know, it's a good solution. But
Yeah.
then you got to extend that. And it's like I'm no scholar of the Quran, but it's like
Yeah.
there's yeah, you got to, if you look at the message there, you're really trying to protect your women by making them not stand out. And it's really weird that there's been this really kind of. So I've worked with a lot of people of Muslim faith throughout the years and stuff, especially in science. There's a lot of crew around, but it was literally like, you know, there was crew, especially like Indonesians and stuff, which is sort of like, yeah, like, you know, they're Muslim, they're strong Muslim, but they've got their different take on it than the Arabs and you know, all that sort of take. But there was this wave of like, I chucked the scarves up as sort of like a kind of like a punk kind of rebelliousness to it or something. Did you notice that? Did you see like this kind of sweep through of people who were previously like, they were kind of moderates and they didn't really give a shit about it, and then it was like solidarity, like, you know,
yeah.
they're picking on us. We're all gonna say like, you know, fuck you, I'm wearing my
Yeah.
scarf. Like,
It seems
I
like
think that was
a common thing that happens.
yeah. I mean, you isolate any group and people are gonna, you know, get angry. I mean, it's happened in Queensland in the 80s. There was a horrible premier who shut down all the punks, and, you know, if you had a mohawk, you got beaten up by the cops and stuff like that, and
Oh, wow.
just sort of just created an absolute rebellion against that. You know,
Right.
it's like if anyone gets picked on, I guess they'll double down a lot of the time. But you know, if you look at the original Quran, it's just like, if I was a Muslim man and I had young daughters, I would be look, you know, whatever you feel about modesty, do the modesty thing. But you want a little bit of blending in, because you just don't want to fucking stand out and get like socked by some fucking racist or asshole. And
Yeah.
it seems like that's the original text. Anyway, this is a complete tangent about religion.
Yeah.
But
No, that's fine, man. It's interesting.
yeah,
Well,
it all,
like religion and psychedelics and ancient
oh, it's all hand in hand,
civilizations are
isn't it?
all connected, man.
Yeah, you know, and it's like there's this sort of, so we were talking before we both went through that whole new atheist. I mean, you were like Hitchens fan and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I was all
Yeah,
like militant atheist, like huge
yeah,
Sam Harris,
Dawkins,
Hitchens,
Sam
and
Harris, yeah.
Dawkins, the Four Horsemen fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Dennett, was he
Yeah,
the?
Daniel
Was
Dennett
it?
was the other.
Yeah,
Daniel
right.
Dennett, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and Christopher Hitchens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Which is, you know, it was great. It was this whole time where it was just like, fucking, let's just tear this shit down. Like, you know, it's like, I was just filled with piss and vinegar. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's like, you know what religion is? Like, religion is them controlling your mind,
Yeah.
man, and like they're telling you what to do and they're taking your money, man. It's like, that's all it is.
Bullshit, man. It's based on no evidence.
Yeah. It's like an invisible man. You're worshiping an invisible man, and they're taking all your money. It's like, yeah, you know, that's true. It is true. Like, that's a problem. There's a problem when something's true. You know,
Yeah.
you get too focused on that one truth. Like, there's definitely that shit happening. But yeah, I've been really getting the kicker out of just sort of like looking at every single religion, just being like, oh yeah, like, okay, what environment did it evolve up in?
Yeah.
What technology was around? What drugs were they on? Because that changes everything. I mean,
Yeah.
like, if you're a booze heavy, I mean, people don't even think that we're in a drug culture right now. I don't know what it's like in Canada. Oh, you guys, yeah, you guys just
Yeah, we
legalized,
just
didn't you?
legalized weed, man.
Yeah, goddamn. What was it like to finally have weed for the first time, seeing you've broken no laws before? Did you like it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it was pretty cool to actually order some online for much
No
cheaper
shit.
than I was
Yeah.
be able to
And
get it.
you can get your varieties, I assume, as well. Like, you get like sativa and indica.
Yeah,
Yeah, in Australia, I don't do anything illegal, but in Australia, it's pretty much like, hey, I would like 1 unit of weed. It's like, here you go. How much would you like of it? Okay, and it's like sometimes it comes from outdoors, sometimes it comes from some bikie shed,
yeah,
you don't really know where it's coming from.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that legalization shit, it's got to happen.
yeah.
Like it
That's
makes
what
so
I
much
like.
sense.
I think all drugs should be legalized. Even like I think
Yeah, man.
there's a real the there. I'm pretty convinced that just legalizing everything, even the more dangerous ones like heroin and whatnot, makes them safer. Like they're like where people have decriminalized heroin and stuff like.
Yeah, like Portugal did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they like where they had clinics set up where people could go and use it, then you're not getting like that adulterated shit on the black market.
Yeah.
You can
I
have
think
the safer stuff.
I think Holland set up a thing where like if you're addicted to heroin, it's like come to this place, you get your heroin for free. Um, you have to inject it in the injecting room, and you got to come in. Like you have to come
Yeah,
in, and you got to hang out a little bit. You got to have some face-to-face time with the licensed professionals who are trained to handle addiction stuff. And like people were just getting so fucking bored. Like they're starting like knitting circles and shit, and it's just like they're honestly getting bored of heroin because what you don't factor in with heroin is like there's some exciting times we had if you're a heroin addict. It's just like I got this hustle. There's this place down there and they've got a bunch of copper piping fucking secured. Okay, we're gonna come back. We needed like a third person. Where we're gonna get a saw from? Like you got a whole day. Like, and that's taking the stereotype of the real like the absolute Dero junkie who's just fucking stealing everything. He's got the VCR underneath the arm, from back in the day.
yeah.
But that stereotype is legit in some ways. There's a lot of functioning heroin addicts as well,
Yeah.
of course, but it can hit that point.
About like Carl Hart, Dr. Carl Hart, when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Joe
like
Rogan.
he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how he talks about how like even when we're talking about more dangerous drugs like heroin and cocaine, it seems like at least according to him that most people are functional users and they don't become addicts. And I like that approach with what you were talking about with legalizing heroin, where like in this documentary, The Culture High, that I was watching, that Joe Rogan is in, it's like if you legalize stuff like that and addiction, you see addiction as a mental health problem rather than a criminal problem, then it seems like it's much easier to deal with people who are addicts and like get them help rather than give them criminal records and maybe even making their problems worse.
Yeah, that whole the rat theme park experiment is just a perfect experiment. You know what I mean? It's just like because everyone was just so aware of like, oh, like, do I want heroin? I think it was cocaine, wasn't it? It was like, do I want coke or do I want water? Do I want coke or do I want water? And they're just in this little fucking thing by themselves. They're just like coke, 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 coke. Then it's just like, hey, like, there's coke over there, but there's a pool over there and these babes over there. And it's just like,
exactly.
Rats aren't using the coke as much. Like
like they try the coke once and then they're like, nah, that's boring. I'm gonna go play in the park.
Yeah. These guys are all like, singing a rat song over here or whatever. Like I mean, that was just one of my favorite scientific studies in recent years because it's just so elegant. It's just like you're doing the same thing. You haven't thought about it in this way before though, because science will get locked into like, like we're comparing to all the other journals in the field. The standard size for a rat cage is this. It's got to have white walls. Like we're going to feed them rat chow with this percentage fat. And, it's like this real standardization sort of thing. This guy's like, okay, I'm going to keep all that, but I'm just going to change. I'm going to make a rat wonderland. And it makes so much sense. I mean, like I've known people who have jumped off the deep end with abuse of different chemicals. I've even had my time where I've sort of like, had it more under control and less under control. And it is completely a product of society, like the best thing you can do for someone in that scenario is put them in a community and have people around them, like, and which is what heroin communities often are. Like, you know, there's the fence, there's the people that you know, steal shit with, you know, like there's this whole community
Oh,
shit
yeah.
around it. That's
That's a
why
good
just
point.
giving it to them for free and providing them with the space, they get bored of it. Often it's like there's another element which draws people into it. Like, which,
Like
you
the
know, is,
social stigma.
yeah, yeah. I just need to grab my charger for a sec. And my laptop isn't plugged in. Give me 2 secs.
Oh yeah, sure.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, you were talking too about how people think that there's no drug culture, which is
Oh yeah, but we're just like,
hilarious because
yeah, I know.
we
Yeah,
totally praise the alcohol culture. Like
yeah, yeah.
people say with pride, "Oh
Let's have
man,
a
I got
drink.
so wasted last night. I don't even know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did." Yeah,
yeah. I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, it's just like, you know, it's perfectly like, oh yeah, you know, it's a scotch or like wine. Wine's an even better one. I'm in a wine
yeah,
state. We produce heaps of wine here, so it's just sort of like, oh yeah, it's okay, you know. So these mums just having like fucking. I mean, there's a kind of a stereo. Actually, I think they did a public service thing even about it, targeting mothers who were just like putting down a bottle of wine a night, you know? Like, and it's because it's just like, oh yeah, it's just like, it's just a wine, you know? It's just like, you're not fucking happy with your life. That's a certain, like,
yeah.
you know, a bottle of wine a night is like, that shouldn't, I mean, I love wine. I would drink a bottle of wine a night if I wasn't worried about the health effects of it. But yeah, I mean, it's huge. The alcohol culture is huge. Like, and it's, yeah, it's kind of one of those ones when you're in it, you can't really see it as much. And yeah, I find the whole, you know, the shunning of legalizing more stuff to just be ridiculous, because we've even got the example of the states going through prohibition, and it's like, oh yeah, like how did all the mafia rise up? Because they were selling booze and they got them a
Exactly.
foothold,
Yeah.
you know, and then like, and then once they had the foothold, they ended up switching over to drugs because alcohol's made legal again. I mean, if you got all the, I mean, look at this migrant caravan thing happening in the States at the moment. I saw this one today, and it's a complicated scenario because, you know, I think I'm a globalist long term. I think borders will eventually disappear, but you need them in the short term just to get shit sorted. But there was this case today, and it was like this woman had joined the caravan and she joined with her 4-year-old son because they've been threatened by the fucking cartel in Guatemala. You know, it's
Oh
like the
wow.
gangs just run through. And a friend of mine, he's got a friend whose family are from Mexico. She was saying how she's got a cousin and no one's seen him in a couple of months, and they think he might have joined the cartel and he's just fucking missing. He might be
Oh
dead,
wow.
he might not be, but he's got no connection to his family anymore. And this is just common shit down there. I mean, the cartel stuff is just huge. And why is it huge? Because people are buying heaps and heaps of cocaine in America
Yeah.
and Canada. And
Yeah.
it's going, just, there's so much money to be made that whoever's the biggest warlord wins. I mean,
Yeah.
just for this, I mean, surely you can push that to your hardcore strong border Republican
Yeah.
that, look, you
Like
know, legalize this shit, you're going to get less
everyone.
people running in here because
Yeah.
they're not
Exactly.
escaping the cartels.
Yeah.
And your left wingers are just like, you know, surely we should legalize it. Oh, you know, they are getting a bit more religious these days in terms of that sort of stuff. But you know, they're still sort of like freedom of personal choice is the core of left wing values
Yeah.
generally. Yeah, it just seems like it's one of those policies which is just like, why doesn't anyone have the fucking goddamn guts to give it a go?
Yeah.
Like, I guess they're just fighting uphill against like years and years of
Like
propaganda or
like you were just saying too, like the with how the mob controlled the alcohol industry when
yeah.
alcohol was illegal during alcohol prohibition, and
Mhm.
now the cartels are selling all the drugs. Like, don't you want to take away power from the cartels? And like,
Yeah.
who do you
Yeah.
want? Who do you want to have the power?
Yeah. 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 Like, who are you helping?
Do you want legal businesses and the government to control
Yeah.
the supply of drugs, or
Regulation.
do you want cartels to do it?
Yeah, I mean, shit. Like, you bring in a thing, you get like a little card. It's like you go to the chemist, and it's like beep beep. You know, like, oh, you bought this much cocaine this month. Like, Do you need to
Yeah.
see someone about that? You know, like, do you just want to have a chat and a hug? You know, like,
Yeah.
he call this line or whatever. You know, it's like, rather than like you're buying from someone who's just like, you know, just trying to make heaps of money to get spinning rims or some shit. You know, like, drug
Yeah.
dealers are not you know, the highest point of our culture at the moment. You know, they get glamorized because they get cash, but they're mostly pretty, you know, some drug dealers are nice, but some drug dealers get that whole, you know, like, oh yeah, we're going to save the world. We're going to like open minds, but they're pretty rare. Most of them are just like hard dudes who are not afraid to fight if they have to, you know.
Plus,
It's just like,
they don't ask for IDs, so
they don't ask for IDs. Yep.
yeah, you don't
Hey,
have ID to get coke.
yeah, school formal discount. There's your,
Exactly.
here you go, have some black tar heroin, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons to try it. I mean, okay, well, let's go opposite way. Let's make the biggest case we can to not legalize all drugs.
Sure.
Like, because first off, you got the whole like, maybe there's some long-term effects on the brain, you know, like maybe it's changing. Yeah. Maybe smoking weed all the time makes you a less productive citizen, you know. Maybe it
doesn't make me less productive.
Yeah. Hey, says the man with the unfinished book.
Well, I'm still working all the time, just way too many things.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you know, I'm just doing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
here.
I know.
I mean, there is sort of like a, I think, you know, to an extent, not me, because of course I've never done anything illegal in my life. But someone who quite like me, you know, would definitely have taken a different path in life if without that experience, without a lot of those experiences of like doof culture, psychedelic culture, the psychedelic artists and thinkers and all that sort of stuff. A lot of it is really like, you know what, like, you know, you can have a white picket fence and like a 9 to 5 and do that. But and that's legit. That's what everyone's telling. That's what society says is the happiest path. But
and that's what
psychedelic thinkers,
some people want.
Yeah, yeah, I can see the appeal of it, man. You know, like I'm definitely leaning towards that direction eventually. I just want to end up in like something interesting, you know, that's sort of less cardboard box factory, I guess.
Yeah,
and more like, you know, like a space bounty hunter or something. Maybe that sort of career. I haven't worked it out yet, but you know, it's I think there is a benefit to it, but it does block productivity. I think with the methamphetamines and stuff, they're pretty wild. Like I know. Okay, so in my scene, I can think of one case where there was this one girl who was around the scene and she just disappeared. And the story was that she was living in a house owned by some dudes and having sex for money to fund methamphetamines.
Oh, okay.
She's appeared on the scene again. I haven't talked to her about this. I mean, you know, no shame. It's cool. We all have our bad times in life. Wouldn't want to shame her or anything like that sort of thing. But it is sort of like, well, you know, maybe the drugs kind of controlled shit a bit there. You know, it's like you needed a lot of money because, you know, it's sort of like there was probably some mental health and stuff thrown in there. Methamphetamines do seem to be pretty leery sometimes. There's a big meth wave, especially in the country of Australia, like all in the rural areas. There's just a big, country towns are just filled with meth. Like, and it's all owned by the bikie scene. So there's outlaw motorcycle gangs. They own different towns and patches, and they're sort of fighting for the country meth turf. And like, but I also know dudes who, like, you know, they'll do meth like 4 times a year. And completely functional. They don't sleep for 3 days. They play darts. They drink beers.
Yeah.
And you know, so that's what they do for like every birthday or something. You know.
Yeah.
I personally, and I am not lying. I've never tried like ice or crystal or anything like that.
Oh yeah, me too. Me neither. I don't think I would want to. I mean, they sound too to me.
Yeah, it's not my style. And I've got an addictive personality. I was addicted to smoking for ages, so it's just sort of like I don't fuck with shit until, like, you know, maybe when I'm 95, I'll start ticking off all these. You know, it's just like it's sore, hard to wake up
anyway. Like, I mean, from what from just what I've heard about heroin, like I've never, as far as I know, I've never known anyone who's done heroin, but just from what I've seen in movies and stuff, it seems like heroin is probably a pretty awesome time when you're high on heroin, but
Yeah, it's a good retirement drug.
I wouldn't want to do it. So I mean, like in the same
Yeah,
sense, if I'm like 95, hey, fuck it, if I'm gonna die soon anyway.
perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. You know, it's all these sore joints. You know, you just
Yeah,
like just have a whole bunch of Afghani, you know, just straight off the military convoy, just some pure
yeah,
Afghani opium. It's got a
yeah,
sweet, like, you know, whittle your own opium pipe. You know, just
yeah,
make this beautiful old opium pipe.
yeah,
Just sit on your porch, look out over your garden, and just
yeah,
like just smoke opium every day, all day.
yeah,
95, baby. That's the,
yeah,
the one.
yeah,
Stay
that's
alive to
awesome, man.
planet.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
you were
mean, you know,
talking about when you were talking about meth, I was thinking also um there was a girl I used to know who she had a boyfriend, but she cheated on him all the time, and I found out later that she also was a huge cokehead. So there
oh
might have
yeah,
been a connection there with her
yeah,
behavior. But then there
definitely.
are other people who will like they'll take they'll they'll take coke before going out and clubbing all night or something like
Yeah,
that, and they
yeah.
seem to be fine with it.
Yeah, Coke's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I still just don't quite know how to understand it. Like, it definitely, because Coke's really big in, like, okay, so Coke here, like a gram, I think would be around about, look, at least 300 Australian dollars. Let me find out how much, and often more, like be more like 300 AED to Canadian. What's that? 285 Canadian dollars for a gram, I think,
Oh wow. Yeah,
which is
I've heard from people I've known before who know people who have bought coke that it's like $1,000 for no, it's like
it's like
$100 for a line
yeah,
of
eight
coke or
balls.
something. Like if you're gonna smoke
Mm.
a line, and it's like I don't know, it sounds like a comparable price.
You guys will be getting it cheaper for sure. Like we've got some of the biggest uh, border security in the world. Like, you know, because not only because we're an island nation and we've got a very paternalistic government, which is like, we're going to stop all the drugs coming in, but also quarantine's huge. Like agriculture's most of our economy. So
Oh,
they're really, really tough on quarantine and border security because you don't want someone bringing over a banana with a pest in it that just wipes out the entire banana industry.
right.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure how much it would cost in Canada. I'm assuming it might be like half, though. I mean, definitely when I was in the States, it was sort of like Australian prices were about 3 times more compared to California,
Oh wow.
from what I gathered from crew. So, okay, so, you know, that's really fucking expensive. So the culture in Australia is definitely not my demographic. Like, you know, we're just share house and chillers and stuff. It's the lawyer, it's the lawyers and the politicians. Like, I legit know like who, like some politicians who they're buying off of and shit. Like,
They can
it's
afford it, man.
yeah, exactly. And it is such a bigger status symbol because of it. Like Australia and Coke is just like, whoa, Coke, like, you know, wow. It's like, you know, like like I wish I had that amount of money as a kid so I could have bought a master system, you know. It's like it's a lot of money to just like fucking flush down the toilet for one
Yeah.
night of partying. So it's very much, even more so, I think, than the States, is kind of like tied into that whole, it's expensive, so it's kind of you know, it's got that like extra appeal of yeah, you're showing off your money, you know,
Oh,
vibe to it.
okay.
But I didn't find it to be that interesting. I mean, you know, sorry, the people who I know who have done illegal things, they don't find it to be that very interesting, is what they've told me.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's just sort of like, it just makes you confident, it just makes you loud, just makes you like that drunk guy in the bar who's really you know, like if I had like a bunch of coke before this, I'd be telling you all about, you know, Göbekli Tepe and exactly what happened, instead of being like, maybe this happened. It'd be like, oh yeah, no, like there was a whole Atlantis like civilization, like you know, they were definitely there. They would have
Yeah.
had steam engine boats going across the Atlantic. But Yeah, it's weird. Australia's Australia's got a really weird drug culture as well. And we've got the fly in, fly out stuff as well. So there's a lot of money in Australia is all the mining industry. So if you want big money, like 100K a year, 130K a year, which is like big money,
Yeah.
you can get a job driving trucks out in like a mining field. You head out to the mining field. You get 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So these guys go away for 2 weeks, or go away for 3 weeks and 1 week off, and they just burn through all their money on the 1 week off. It's a pretty big culture of that. Less so in Adelaide, but definitely in Perth, there's a bigger culture of that.
Oh yeah, that actually sounds similar to where I live, because we live in a place where there's a huge oil industry. So a
Yeah,
lot of
did you
people
say
work,
oil sands? Is it oil sands?
yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
people work in the
yeah,
oil
for real.
sands plants.
Mm,
So they make like at least $100,000 a year or more, and they have a similar schedule, like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and then they make
mm.
tons of money, so
Same
much that they
thing.
don't know what to do with it. So
Yeah,
then
you got
on their week off, they'll just like blow it all on
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. It seems to be
alcohol or other drugs, and like shiny, flashy new
yeah.
purchases.
I don't
Yeah,
want to be sexist, but it does seem like it's quite a male trait, isn't it? Like to
yeah,
just
I
sort
would
of
say so.
like get a whole bunch and then just like blow it and then just do it again, sort of thing. Like I
Yeah,
think that's why those micro loans always work well in developing countries, where they just give it to like the wives and stuff. It's just like, hey, you got to buy a sewing machine and make some more money for the household, and they're like, sure am. And meanwhile, the guy is like, okay, I got this plan. I need to get all this money, and we're all gonna we're gonna take it. I've been feeling lucky. We're gonna go to the dice hall or just some harebrained scheme. I guess that's you kind of need that balance. You need people doing the crazy shit to find out other stuff, I guess. But yeah.
yeah,
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 so it's quite. So you got what you got Trudeau in at the moment, don't you? Like
yeah.
in terms of oil was a big thing with that whole. What's the oil sands thing at the moment in Canada? Like I hear whispers about pipeline controversies and all those kind of things.
Yeah, there's like some people don't want the pipeline to be built, but I mean, it seems like it's pretty much going to be built anyway, regardless of how much people want it, because just the industry is just so powerful anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it might have been might have been a year or two ago now, or maybe even longer. But there was a huge drop in oil prices, so a lot of people lost their jobs. But
Hmm.
I think the price has
Yeah,
gone
with
up
all the
more.
fracking oil coming online,
Yeah,
just like oversupply America. Because do you remember peak oil? Did you watch those peak oil documentaries and stuff?
I don't think I watched
In the
documentaries
90s?
or anything, but I heard
There's this,
about it. I don't know
there's
much
this there's
detail.
this one guy. He appeared on Rogan like fucking 6 years ago. I don't know how long Rogan's been on, but yeah. Anyway, this dude, he had these documentaries on peak oil and stuff. He ended up like having this patch of. It was fucking sad, man. It was really sad. Like it's this doco and it's this guy, and like I think there was something on the lines of like, his wife's left him.
Oh,
There's going to be peak oil collapse. All of society's going to die.
wow.
He's showing how, like, to piss on your lawn to get nitrogen into it because every little bit of nutrient's going to be like fucking essential or something like that, man. This guy ended up topping himself actually. Like he was a suicidal, really, really depressed, lonely dude. The type of dude who kind of needs like a club to go and play backgammon at. You know what I mean? It's just so it's that dude. He doesn't have his wife. He's lost all his friends because he put it all into the house home probably. But anyway, what he did was come up with a whole documentary about peak oil, and it was pretty convincing. And it was just like, because I've always been quite interested in investing and stuff. I was just like, oh yeah, okay, like oil's going to go down. Like, what's gonna benefit from oil plummeting like that? And then this fracking technology just comes online, and it's just all this oil which they couldn't get is just like spilling out. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Like America, like is a net exporter now, and like they went through a whole big phase, I think, of relying on Saudi oil and stuff. And then you get the whole Venezuelan thing as well. So like, you got Iran that requires, a lot of oil sales to keep their economy afloat. You got Venezuela, which is mostly an oil economy, and both of them are not very well liked by the states. So it's just like just pump out a bunch of oil and hit them in the purse, you
I
know.
don't know that much
Um,
about the Venezuela situation. What's that like?
well, basically, socialist takeover. They did the whole thing of like we're gonna, you know, these factories are our factories, you know.
Right.
It's fucking sad, man. I mean, Venezuela's just like Venezuela is the you want you want to find out exactly what's happening. Ask the right wingers in America, and they know everything about Venezuela because it is their favorite example of socialism because it's just like it just fucked up in that just beautifully perfect socialist way where
Where
it's just
is that where they made it illegal to raise prices so you can see the like empty grocery stores and stuff because they can't raise their prices or
there was a
something?
lot of price control and there was a
Yeah.
lot of I mean it was just basically like let's get a committee involved in everything and let's have like a hierarchy. I mean there's videos of the current Venezuelan I don't know if it's a prime minister, it's probably a president, isn't it? Yeah. The current president and he's just like, you know that Salt Bay dude? Like the dude with the salt over the steaks? Just that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
eating at that guy's restaurant. They're fucking like they're just fat. They're like it's that quintessential like like the fat cat stereotype. And there's video of it, of them eating there. And meanwhile, like if you watch, I don't know, I follow like a couple people on Twitter who report on Venezuela and stuff. I kind of got into Venezuela a little bit from cryptocurrencies as well because that was a really interesting. There was a Venezuelan Bitcoin crossover type thing that happened because of all this shit.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, well, it was just like it's inflationary proof was the whole concept. So people were running Bitcoin in there, or like there was a series of like trade networks and stuff to get it in there. Same with Zimbabwe, like all the hyperinflation places in the planet. Crypto can like boom and crash, but if you're in a hyperinflation point, better having crypto. Like Iran at the moment, they're going through some massive inflation as well. But yeah, Venezuela, man, like you see these videos come out of it, and it's just like it's this fucking factory which must have been shut down for like I don't know how long the factory was shut down for, but it's just like this one box of cereal. Like, it's just
Oh
coming
wow.
down this phone line, and everyone's just like, yeah, it's like we're back online, like we're making cereal again. And it's like it's not even like a flow of them. It's like one coming down, and they are just so excited to get this factory running again and making cereal. It is heartbreaking. It's just I mean, it's that classic case of well, humans are fucking corruptible, aren't they? You get the whole socialist thing. It's like, oh, it's all noble and stuff. I mean, like, I know a fair few young socialists and stuff, and it's like, what of them I can see, like, what if we gave them absolute power? Like, how long is it before, like, their bloody, their noise band is the national anthem? Their all their mates are like, doing all the fun shit that they want to be doing. It's like, humans are just corruptible and committees are just terrible. Like, I mean, I just think it's it's definitely not working. And I don't think it will work. I'm a real believer in technology, like I'm cool with like, there should be government programs and stuff, but humans are really shit at organizing it. Like we'll get some deep learning or some AI on that eventually. And we'll just sort of be like, here's your gruel, here's your task. You just log into your phone. Or your phone will just control your brain. It'll be like, I feel like eating some gruel today and go into that field for a little bit. It's like, everyone's doing it. I got to get a little, snap of that. Yeah, maybe controlling people's brains subtly will be the way. I watched that Jonathan Haidt thing you posted as well just before we got online. That was pretty interesting. The one on what's that? Yeah, Bill Maher. Yeah. Bill Maher's an interesting character. Yeah, I guess he's really required. He just did good work through the years.
I used to like him more when I was more of a militant atheist. Now I just more arrogant than I used to.
yeah. Once the arrogance sort of like starts to shrivel up a little bit, you can. Some of these heroes start to seem a little bit on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great though. I mean, Hyatt's just fantastic.
Yeah, I love him.
He's
Yeah.
he's exactly the voice that we require in this day and age. Just sort of, just taking that balance, like, you know what, you guys are right about that, but you're wrong about that, or like, not even saying that, just like people think this because they have this belief. People think
Yeah.
this because they have this belief. Way better, like
Yeah.
yeah.
For
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like the more I think that like you were talking about, the more you learn, the more you figure out that it's especially with it when Jonathan Haidt talks about that in his books, like particularly The Righteous Mind, where people people have different beliefs because they have these different values and they look at situations from different perspectives. It's not that, those people are immoral or those people are dumb,
yeah,
that they see
yeah,
things
yeah.
differently. Yeah.
Yeah, like racism is some characteristic that is just sort of put upon people, but then like everyone has a plastic mind that can be shaped by culture. It's like there's often a weird level of, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the left seems to do a lot of the whole blank slate thing is still pretty big. Like, I definitely know crew that are coming from the blank slate mind. I came from the science faculty, so it was like, blank slate is just like, you're fucking crazy. Like, but
Yeah. I'm gender fluid.
oh, like gender's a tricky one. You can do what you want. I mean, I think the young kids are getting it pretty good in terms of like,
Yeah.
at least I've noticed with my, I've gone through a couple of different iterations of the crew I hang out with, but like the dudes I hang out with, like all huggers, like all just like, how you going, mate? Like, someone's having a bad time. It's like, it's fine to talk about feelings, like breaking down those Australian stereotypes.
Oh,
It's just like, that
Yeah.
should be right. Like, it's getting pretty good, and you see the young kids come through and it's like, it'll be like, I don't know, it's fucking complex. Like, I'm certainly not naming names with any of this stuff, but there's a mix. You see some crew roll through and it's just like this is in, who was that? It'll come to me eventually. Recent book about biology and minds. Anyway, the current science seems to suggest that it is possible that you can have a brain that sort of goes in a different gender to the body that you're born in. Like,
Oh, right.
and
Yeah,
this
Robert
does happen.
Sapolsky talks about that
That's
in
it.
Behave too. Yeah.
Hey, there's one that I'm halfway through that one as well. I
Oh, that's
got
great.
the audiobook library thing going. Have you got the audiobook like from the library? It's great, but you need to get
Oh,
through the
yeah.
one that you get from I've
Yeah.
shut down my Audible account to save cash.
Oh, yeah, I
but
did too, actually. Yeah.
yeah, you can get so much from the library and really good stuff. But I completely agree with that science that some people are just sort of, like they feel like a dude and they're in a chick's body. They feel like a
Yeah.
chick and they're in a dude's body. Like, yeah, it's cool, But
Yeah.
then there's like this other wave, which is just like, like, oh man, like, here I am at the party and like everyone's got this fun story and this talent or blah 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 blah. It's just like, I need my niche. I need my my fedora hat or the talking point, and
Yeah.
which is like some people that's doing a little bit of gender bending, which is fine. Like I'm
Yeah.
fine with that, but like there's several layers, is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
some people are doing it for a bit of a laugh. Some people are doing it because it's like fucking really really serious, and I think you can't just take any. I don't know. It's a tough one. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Like if people, like if someone wants to, if someone is male but they feel like they're female or vice versa or like anything in between and stuff like that, I don't really care. I think people should do whatever they want to. But I mean, it just gets crazy when people say like, I am a man, but I'm actually a woman. It doesn't that's fine. It's fine to think that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't magically mean that your penis literally
yeah,
disappears and vagina literally
yeah.
appears
It's
in place.
finding the words for it, isn't it? Like it's just because like you would have seen those podcasts with old Peterson, and they're just like, would you define them as a real woman? And he's like, well, define real. It's like
Yeah.
I think that's a fair point. It is kind of tricky. We need different language and different ways to handle it. Knowing these people are out there and trying to make stuff better for them, sweet, I'm totally down. But you know, it's so weird how it became such an issue. Because I know a chick who just dresses andro, and you know,
What's
she's sort
that?
of well, androgynous. Like, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
like
Okay.
could be a boy, could be a girl, sort of like, you know, kind of big, that 80s look sort of thing. And
Right.
it's like she just said, like, you know, after all this shit got really big in the press, like she's just walking down the street and people were just like, "Are you a boy or are you a girl?" You know? And like, it never fucking happened when it was just like, because in the 80s it was just androgyny, and that was a fashion movement. It wasn't tied to a biological identity persecution element. You know what I mean? Like chicks just
Oh,
wore
yeah.
big shoulders because it was a sort of like gender equality sort of kicking in a bit, and they kind of get into the boardroom and they're like, all right, who's got the biggest fucking shoulders in here? Was their mentality, you know, which is pretty funny. It's just so, and it's kind
Yeah.
of like I put like the shoulder pads in the 80s right up there with like those cod pieces from the Middle Ages that are just bright red. Just like right, you see I don't know if
Oh,
you ever seen
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like knights in armor, and they'll just have this huge thing on their around their dick, and it's just white and red. It's fucking, it's like a Cameo. If you remember the 80s band Cameo, they sort of brought it back a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe it's the fact that we don't have like androgyny is just sort of like a more of a fashion thing, so it's getting tied into identity, like fashion and serious persecution and stuff is like you don't want to get them mixed up. Like let people. I don't know. You know, it's a fucking
Yeah.
tough one. But
Yeah,
I
for
feel
sure.
like some of it has been. I feel like there is a bit of fashion mixed in with the big rights movement going on, and that doesn't help the rights movement because people aren't going to take it as seriously. Essentially,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
that's a good point.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've talked about pretty much everything except
Yeah.
for archaeology and psychedelics. Choose a archaeological. I don't know. What have you been getting into recently, man?
Well, actually, I've been getting more into philosophy lately. I've been
Hmm.
talking with Hayden Bruce and James Sullivan on my
Hmm.
podcast about postmodernism and pragmatism and
Yeah,
studying
that's right. I
those
saw that
more.
you were going through a big postmodern kick
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been studying Stoicism more too, and
Hmm.
I've been just been getting a little bit into sociology as well. I'm talking on Thursday actually with with Tim Keefe, who was on James Sullivan's podcast,
Hmm.
and I'm really excited. We're going to talk about the sociology of porn and complexity theory.
Yeah, cool. Okay. What's your take on hang on, so sociology of porn and sort of like what the social effect of that pornography has, or more
Yeah,
the
and like the cultural attitudes towards porn and the social stigma and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing no fap November?
No, I didn't I haven't heard of that.
It's just started. I saw some meme about it the other day. I'm giving it a crack. I'm giving it a crack.
Oh, okay.
I found out when I find that to be really interesting. Have you noticed the no fap movement and stuff
No,
online?
I haven't. No.
Okay,
Is it
it's
like
a
an
big thing.
opposition to the ketogenic or diet or
No, it's
something?
basically, yeah, it's preventing masturbation is the whole thing.
Oh,
So
really?
it's a
Oh,
oh,
no
no
fap?
fap, FAP,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought you said no fat.
Oh, no fat. Oh, no,
Oh,
no,
no
no,
fat.
no, no, no,
That's
no, 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 no
interesting.
fap. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
don't
it's
masturbate for a month. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's like a no fap November, which is really interesting. So this ties into the whole pornography thing.
Yeah.
There's been this whole, I don't know, I found it really interesting because it's sort of like it's definitely an issue which affects guys way more of like overuse of pornography. Guys being more visual, it seems in general.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, I don't know, there's this sort of, because, okay, so we both went through the whole atheist movement. It's just like, fuck religion. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like these fucking motherfuckers, like, they don't know shit. They're just trying to
Yeah.
control us and take our money. And it's like these motherfuckers say that, like porn's bad, They also say that weed's bad. Well, fuck you. Like, I'm smoking weed and watching some porn, like, fuck the church, like that sort of shit. And then it's sort of like I
Get
find
carried
it,
away with them. Just don't like watch porn,
yeah.
get high all day, and then just accomplish.
A lot of people do, man. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
But so I find it really interesting if you look at that, the no fap movement is sort of like it's it's like a men's help group in a way. And this has, I don't know heaps about the history of it. I definitely know that it must be at least 4chan associated. And I think it crosses over into the incel world a little bit, but it also crosses over into a couple of different, like, just, I think, like, even like the sort of just male, I mean, like Tim Ferriss and, you know, like your self-help gurus and stuff kind of get onto that whole flow. And
oh yeah, I've heard that before. Like how if you limit your orgasms, it can be healthier for men. That Tim Ferriss
the Taoists were big into it. He got on that guy who wrote a bunch of qigong books, I think. Maybe that was London Real. Anyway, there's these old Taoist texts which have this whole thing where it's just like you never spill any seed. So it's all about like just pinching it and just like lasting through an orgasm and just pinch it the whole time and your muscles are strong enough. It's like in your sort of like
difficult, man.
Yeah, they train, man. These fucking like there's these like 70-year-old Chinese dudes up in the mountains just pinching their fucking common muscles all day, just strengthen them up, I guess. But yeah, it was a big thing in Taoism because Taoists were like they got that whole wave of like immortality quest thing, which I guess everyone does. But because it seemed to hit the Taoists a lot harder. Like there was a like it's just they worked out how to, maybe they got so good at it. It's just like, you know what? Like you let the fucking water flow down there. That's fucking carrying your fish food over there. They're just sitting back all day. They just worked out the nature of reality and the flow of it. Maybe they just got so good at it. They worked out how to have multiple orgasms because they had all that free time. but it's it was a big thing.
That reminds me of I forget who it was, but Joe Rogan talked to a porn star, I think a long time ago on his podcast, and he was asking
male porn star, female porn star.
He was a male porn star, I think, or no, I think it might have been a female and a male porn star because I remember seeing a female, but I forget who it was. But I remember he asked a guy a question and like, how do you have like big frothy loads and never come on porn?
Sounds like something Joe Rogan would say.
And he said something that you were talking about, that those like old 70-year-old dude that they like clench their coming muscles all day. Apparently, like according to this one guy, at least, it's common for male porn stars to do that too, to like clench your dick muscle or something.
Yeah, okay.
Try to prevent you from orgasm.
Yeah, and then just film that one scene. But I guess I mean, you look at the logistics of some of them, and they need to be doing multiple takes, multiple angles.
Yeah,
you got a whole day. You know, you wouldn't want to. You'd need to save it for that shot, and you need to get all your takes, I guess, back in the day, especially when you get those your 70s sort of filming sort of stuff.
I was watching a documentary about that once, and they were saying that there's like, because of that whole aspect, like guys having to stay hard like all day long, there's apparently Viagra's and stuff like that.
Oh, huge.
Huge thing. Yeah,
it's just ripped through. I mean, that's just like, it's like steroids hitting baseball with Viagra hitting the porn scene. Exactly. I just find that to be really fascinating because I've just been checking out these memes. There's all these like cryptocurrency forums and stuff that I go to, and the cryptocurrency forums are pretty interesting because it's a really weird crossover, because you get all people who are interested in investing, but that can be like, you're gonna have like far right, you know, like proto-fascists next to some like Algerian who's like smuggling money, you know, because he's government tracking his assets or some shit, you know, and they're just all in the same place. The NoFap thing seems to have ripped through a bit of the Bitcoin scene, at least it seems. But it just looks like it's kind of like it's replacing that religious function, you know. It's like we got rid of that whole thing where it's just like, you know, back in the day, oh, you're a good Catholic, you know, good Protestant, like you don't look at dirty pictures, you know, it's for fucking weirdos, you know, like you had to go to a store or I mean, you see those old vintage ones. It's like it's so vintage that, you know, it can be on like a non-porn website and be like an art photo.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, here is like Monsoir's, you know, blah blah blah's fucking private collection of like old school photos of Parisian
Yeah.
prostitutes. You know, it's just like it's something that technology is completely facilitated. It's not like back in the day in a hunter-gatherer tribe, you could just be like, oh, I'll go down to this bit. I know everyone's naked down there, and I can just watch them. Like, it's completely bypassed our brain. Like our brain wasn't ready for it, and it's just wiped out a whole fucking generation. I mean, you hear about, I mean, Jonathan Haidt mentioned in that Bill Maher thing, talking about how kids these days are fucking like, they just sit on their phone all day. Their whole social life's on their phone. They don't get out there. They don't date. They don't have sex. They don't drink. You know, they don't get involved in stuff because it is replacing all of that, you know, in a sort of virtual form or something, I guess, you know.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where I was totally like, you know, when growing up, it was just like, you know, porn, the church hates it, fucking great. You know, like this is the good shit. Like, you know, what they hate is always going to be good. And then like the older I get, the more like, you know, the more fucking what is it like, yeah, I guess the more like prudish I get, I guess, with these sort of things. It's like, you know, you rot your brain. Like it's good to, yeah, I don't know. It's an addictive force, and it's sort of, I'm curious to check out that podcast, but I really do think it's harmed an entire generation. Like it just has to have. Like the positives,
it's like you were talking about, like things like that. They're more enjoyable if they're in moderation. So like it's good to have some discipline, and then after you've worked out and worked all day or something like that, then you can appreciate life more, and you know, it's better. That's a better time to like do drugs or watch porn or something. But like if you just do that all day and you just disappear into that internet culture, like you were saying, it can be a much bigger recipe for disaster in a way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I can make a case for pornography as well. I mean,
me too.
I think when it appears in some societies, I think rapes sometimes go down because if you get like, you know, you get some fucked up, I mean, mentally ill, being beaten every day as a kid, you know, has got a weird association with violence and attention and love, you know, it's just been burnt into their brain. This dude's going to be fucking killing hookers, you know, but if there's enough freely available pornography, maybe this dude is just going to go down that trap. You know, you've got some paid for actors, and look, they might be even doing like some gnarly pain things, but it'll keep him from offending. And I think there's a pretty good case for that. Like it's definitely something
like
where
it's like how video games can actually decrease violence in
yeah, exactly. It's providing, like, you know, the Native Americans called lacrosse like the little brother of war, you know.
Oh, really?
It's like, well, you know, we're not at war at the moment, so we'll play lacrosse. And like still their lacrosse matches, like 5 people die. It's like 1,000 people on the pitch. Shit. It's just like smacking each other in the head, you know. It's just like, oh, that motherfucker the other day, you know, like, oh, I run over and just like, oh, part of the game, you know. Like it was like you see these pictures that they've got of these like of paintings that people do in these matches. They're insane, like it's huge. But it was a little brother of war. It's like, okay, you got all these people, you got to keep their skills up, you got to keep them occupied. They've, you know, men have a natural affinity to violence. I mean, we were talking about books before at the start. You know, what are the stories that are exciting to us? We both get into stories where it's just like some dude has some shit happen to him. It's just like, okay, if I need to kill these 50 men in front of me, I guess I'll have to do that. Like that's what you want to be. You know, that's what you want to be able to do. That you don't want to do it. You want to be able to do it. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why sport's great. Sport provides that outlet. You can put colors on, you know, you can be really tribal, but you know, it's not on the basis, it would be on geography. So it's just like binding people from a neighborhood or binding people from a city, you know, like you get these, like in Australia, like you just get these like fresh off the boat arrivals sometimes that just go mad for footy. And it's great. You know, like you see them and all just, I'm not a huge footy fan, but you know, it's like, it's a binder, you know. It has its use. And pornography in the same way, you know, if you can't have sex, then having some sort of outlet will stop that person raping. Hopefully, some rapes. It will stop some rapes. It's not going to stop, like, you know, some shitty date rape scenario or some other
Yeah.
stuff, but it might stop some of them at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of need it.
I like what you're saying about sports too, about how it's like a simulation for warfare and has been for a long time. And that's why,
It
like,
keeps you
it
busy.
can be understandable that people are so attracted to MMA and UFC and stuff like that,
Yeah.
for example. And, like, did you see I watched this Vice video the other day about the first legal bare knuckle boxing event, which I think is interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, no, I haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
I remember reading the arguments a while ago that this is like the whole helmet fiasco with the American football.
Yeah.
When you put the gloves on, apparently, like, the concussive power, or like, it rattles the brain more, and you can punch harder because you're not actually going to hurt your hands. So, like, apparently,
Right.
bare knuckle can be safer in some ways, I think. I don't know. Probably depends how hard
Yeah.
a punch you throw.
Again, I know I've mentioned Joe Rogan like 1,000 times.
Yeah, 1,000 times. It's okay. I'm a big fan as well.
But I've heard him talk about that before. He's explained in detail why bare knuckle is actually safer, because when you have even those little UFC gloves on, it still makes your wrist more solid. So it makes it makes your hand and your wrist like one.
You got to
big
get more of
thing.
bend sort of thing.
Yeah, so you gotta, like, you can just punch all day and you'll never get hurt. But if you're doing bare knuckle, exactly like you were just doing, like, your wrist could
You're gonna get some twist. Yeah.
your wrist is gonna have more mobility, so you gotta punch straighter, and you gotta punch on, like, that knuckle right there, or like in the center of your fist, because if you punch on that smaller side of your fist, like where your pinky is, you'll break your fucking knuckles.
Yeah.
Or you could break your hand. So you got to be more careful with your punches.
Yeah.
So it means that people time their punches. They punch more carefully, and so it's like, according to him at least, it makes it less easy for people to get hurt, because there actually are less punches and stuff like
which
that.
is wild. You know, you think like wrapping up a hand in like a bunch of cushioning would be better. You think that wearing a helmet in American football would make it safer, but apparently their brains are just rattling around in their skulls because they can just use it like a weapon.
Yeah, because of the padding, right?
Yeah. So super counterintuitive, which I love. I love anything that's counterintuitive.
Yeah, me
It's always
too.
fun to see that flip and stuff.
Yeah,
you know, it's definitely. I guess that's one of the only sports I really watch these days is a bit of UFC. I guess because of the podcast, I get exposed to all the talk about it. I watch the
yeah, me too.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. It's a bit of fun. It's sort of something. I think it does sort of tap into some primal level, and it's like people get. I mean, what's your nightlife scene out there? Like, you know, like if you go to the main town, how many bar fights happen and that sort of thing in Canada? You guys got much of a culture of that?
Well, I mean, where I live, not so much, but probably more in the cities and stuff like that. I've been like, especially when I was younger, when I would go out and party more. I've done that a few times in the bigger cities, and there does seem to be, like, it doesn't seem like a prominent thing, but I've definitely seen, like, people getting little altercations, mostly outside of bars and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems to be a very British thing. Like all the British colonies seem to have like a bit of that brawl culture. Like England's got it to a T, you know, of course. And then America seems to have this weird sort of like, you know, it's kind of got that libertarian, like, you know, you take care of yourself sort of thing. It's just like, oh, it's a bar brawl. You know, like cops are just like, well, is everyone work this out? In Australia, we've got more of a, you know, because where I'm from is like a free city, so it's like it wasn't convicts originally, but the mentality of the country as a whole still has like a convict mentality in terms of enforcement. So it's just like any brawl, cops, you know, it's arrest them all, stomp on it real quickly. And Canada, I remember seeing a video of Canada of this fight. It's like, oh, come on, you bastard, like, you know, and like this fight, this guy just like clocks him. Guy falls down. It's like, yeah, good one, like good fight, and they just walk off. The friendliest fight I've ever seen. You know, it was like that classic.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I think about it, do remember in town, like, I think literally one time seeing a bar fight, but it was outside of the bar because people would have gotten in trouble. But it just like I'm pretty sure I only saw it literally that one time, and it didn't seem like a big, long, drawn out thing or anything like that. It might have been a few minutes.
It's pretty rare. It's not like a standard thing. Because I mean, I had this chat with this dude the other day, mate of mine, and was sort of talking about like if UFC and stuff is increasing violence, because he was very anti-UFC. He was just like, you know, like, look at this shit on the television. Like, is it any wonder why people are like fighting in the streets and stuff? I don't see that, man. I don't think MMA will increase the amount of street fights. Like,
yeah, me neither.
Nothing more than, I mean, it just seems like most fights are to do with like maladjusted young men in large groups. You know, like they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what their identity is, and they just fucking punching on, I guess. Yeah. Like most of the shit that we see is like once in a while someone will die from being like king hit, or they call it coward punch now. It's like, you know, just most of the deaths happen when they crack the pavement. You know, like no one's killing anyone with a punch. It's all like, you know, they land on a corner, they land on a car, they land on a little sharp bit of the pavement. But it all just seems to be like, just bullshit. I don't know. I just don't know if MMA is increasing that. I would like to think it would be decreasing it. I know Rogan pushes the whole thing. Like, once people get into training, they get that out of their system and they're in the gym. There's, of course, all the kids who don't go to learn and aren't in the gym who still think that maybe they can punch on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think MMA would increase it. I think it hopefully would change the culture of it. You know, like, did you see that? Who won the heavyweight recently? DC. I forgot. Anyway, at the end, he goes up to Rogan. It's like, Rogan, you're my man. Like, can I kiss you? He's like, yeah, you can kiss me. It's like, wow. It was hilarious. You know, like, obviously, like, I think Rogan, like, okay, he's a bit of a meathead. I know he's kind of divisive with like the whole, you know, the community can go out other way. You know, on the old forums, like, people will be like, oh, Rogan, like, I haven't watched Rogan for years. He's full of shit, blah 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 blah. Like, I really do think that guy's doing some good work though. Like what's he done so far? Like, he's pushed a bunch of crew to get healthy. Like, shit, I threw kettlebells around yesterday. I'm going to throw them around today. Like, that's not a coincidence. Yeah.
My favorite piece of workout equipment is my Gorilla kettlebell that I got from.
You don't want, see, shipping to Australia would probably be about like $3,000. Sick.
Fuck to ship it here too. I wouldn't get another one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. I use this app there's an app called Kettlebells. I think it's it's a free one.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend checking it out. And it's just like, cool. You know, count down to this one, like round the world, and it's like, you know, it just shows you what to do, and then it will give you a countdown. It's great. I've just been loving it. But anyway, so Rogan was huge on that for a whole generation of men in our demographic. Stoners who like archaeology and aliens are out backyard building up muscle more. So he's good for that. He was good for the whole drug thing, and I think he is good as well with like kind of breaking down a little bit of that I don't want to call it toxic masculinity because it's just so fucking played out, that word. But I guess, you know, like the negative parts of masculinity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he kind of like,
that's one thing I like about him too. Like, he's a bit of a meathead in some ways, and he would say that about himself, I'm sure. Yeah. But he also he's totally fine with expressing his feelings and all that kind of stuff too, right? So
yeah. Oh man, like at the end of some of the ones where it's like, you know, it's Diaz there and Arias. It's like it's just like full on man love. It's just hilarious. It's just so funny. But you know, I remember there was one where he got really, really drunk. A classic one. I think it's the last time Rogan was super drunk. It was a while ago. It's like 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just hilarious. Like to hear the old I don't know. For me, it was kind of pretty hilarious to see like what is a meathead in MMA like being like a real sensitive little fucking delicate, like, you know, he's loving his friends and he's
Yeah.
looking out for him. It was hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's
He's
great.
like, it's because he's like a jock slash hippie slash nerd, which is the
Good
way I am
crossover.
too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
probably there's probably something to be said for I mean, I always used to think about it like at least in like school days and stuff, like it's important to have like a little bit of that diplomacy, you know, like you want to be able to talk to art crew, your jocks, your, you know, dropouts, like if you can go between all the crews, like you're having a good time because
For
it's just
sure.
like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, like what's happening here, blah 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 blah. We're playing some hacky sack, sick. Oh, what's happening over here? Oh yeah, like there are these chicks around in this group and they're super hot. Like, you know, it's just like having the ability to cross different scenes is a really, really good skill. And I think Rogan's really good at that. Like he is the perfect example of crossing over. Because like how many like stoners would he have made really fit now? You know? Like
Yeah.
maybe made him like be exercising every day who might have just never got there. Like, yeah, I think there's a big it's definitely been a movement of some description. Like that, I would be interesting to see where the chips fall and see where society goes from here. I don't know what like, you know, what the next generation of things are going to be. Podcasting has definitely left its mark. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like I find end up going to YouTube a lot more these days. Maybe it's because it's visual and I'm not
Yeah.
listening while I'm at work or
Yeah, I prefer
driving.
that too, actually, most of the
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
it's definitely helped. I think the visual thing at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what we have, I don't think we covered fuck all psychedelics and
Yeah,
archaeology,
we
man.
did for a while, but we covered
Oh,
ever like so many things,
yeah,
man. That's awesome. That's how these conversations usually
yeah, it's a good way to go.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't expect anything less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we should end on one archaeology. Oh, what else we got us there? I mean, check out the Atlantis
You
stuff.
mentioned
Quebec,
earlier.
that's good.
That's one of my favorite archaeological sites because it's like it's really popular. People talk about how
Yeah,
it's at least 12,000 years old,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they've
yeah.
excavated only a small proportion
Yeah,
of it so
yeah,
far.
yeah. And it's got your carbon dating. You know, like you can lift up a rock, and it's like, oh, look, a leaf got trapped here when they put that down there. And it's just like, bam, like because most of the time, if you've got humans in the same area and they're using the same spot, there you can't carbon date. You can't carbon date rock at all.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
apparently, there's a city right nearby that I've forgotten the name of it, which apparently is being built on top of another city that is really, really old. And apparently, if you dug up underneath that, there's just like it would be some amazing finds. I mean, that's half the thing. I mean, look at I mean, Australia's a really weird country. I'm sure you would have the same in Canada. But it's like you go down like a main street and it's like, oh yeah, like there's the oldest building in town. Like it was made like, you know, like 100 and something years ago or something.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, like it's just it's a really young in terms of apart from the Indige crew, you know, they left their mark, but you know, it's a lot more of a subtle mark. But yeah, it'd be the same Canada. But you know, you go like the middle of Syria, and like you could be like some fucking like baker's shop, and that bakery's been there for like, you know, a couple of 100 years. It's built on top of something else. There'd be some ancient temple from like 2,000 years underneath it. Like these old cities would have a lot underneath them. That and I'm really hoping for more aquatic archaeology as well. Because if the
yeah,
sea levels did rise, I mean, you know, Australia's great case in point. We've got, you know, I think something like it'd probably be like 60% or 70% of our population live really close to the coast. You know, like why? Because we're bringing boats in, and it's easy to move stuff, and you know, naturally people seem to be near bodies of water, be that a river, a lake, or the ocean. So if the levels all did rise up, and I mean, I think that was an old Hancock thing. Was just sort of like we're finding these, you know, they find like, oh, we found like hunter gatherers, you know, like in the fucking rainforest. We got this dig, we found some fossilized shit and a campfire, and you know, like some basic tools and stuff. They could just be like hunters camps of like, you know, a couple of bakers who got like stuck out in the wilderness and, you know, like died out there accidentally. And
yeah,
they're like, oh, this is like their civilization. You know, it's just like, it's the equivalent of like if we dug up some dudes and like they had like, you know, a couple of deer hunting rifles and like you know, like some hunting caps and stuff. It's like, oh, this is the level of their civilization. They had these types of guns and these types of hats. They hung out in groups around campfires. Because, like, really, there could be some massive things underneath the water. Like, and I guess that's drone technology, maybe. I mean, archaeological digs underneath the water is going to be real hard.
We've explored less of our own oceans than we have the surface of the moon, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's huge and it's really hard to dig. I mean, they found the most preserved Rome. Oh, was it Rome? No, it was a Greek boat. They found a really, really preserved Greek boat recently. And it's just like that was just sitting down there, you know, like completely filled with everything it landed with.
Wow.
Because it landed in a bit which preserved it, didn't break down too much bacteria and everything. Just incredible. Wow. Like, there must be like stone. Okay, if we know that Göbekli Tepe is around 12,000, and we know that the oceans have risen after that, and it seemed like there's a rapid rise as well. Like of two rapid rise. If the oceans rose really slowly, it'd be like, oh shit, like half of our buildings hanging in the ocean. All right, let's rip that stone out. Let's build, you know, you reuse the stone further up. But a quick one would just be like, there'd be like a whole city underneath there. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know if I'll live long enough though, because I think that needs some serious imaging solutions and some, you know, like to scan the seabed, get through the sand somehow, and then you've got to somehow dig in this silt and have visuals, or even though you're stirring up all the silt, like it's gonna be a tough mission. But yeah, there's some good shit under there, that's for certain. I think that'll crack it open, hopefully. Yeah, I'm super excited. Every year I'm just like, what's going to be released this year? Like it's my favorite thing to see in the news is like a sweet story about really old, you know, like around the 11,000 mark.
Yeah, it's definitely fascinating.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
any other topics, man? I don't know. I'm pretty chill.
I can't think of anything. We talked about so much. Yeah.
Yeah, just having a yarn. Oh man. Oh, good times. Yeah. I'll see you online and I'll chat soon, buddy.
I'll just say all the things I like to say at the end of my videos here, and then you can offer like any plugs you have or anything like that.
Okay.
And this was a great conversation, man. I'd love to talk again too. This was so much fun.
Yeah, easy, man. Yeah, I'm always happy. I've got a bit of time at the moment, so I like having these types of things. Yeah, and I think it's healthy as well, especially cross country wise. Like you always got to talk to different crew.
Oh yeah,
find out some shit
for sure.
And it's good. Like I like this whole little community. You know, like I've been in several online communities through my life, from psychedelic communities to, you know, like atheists trolling the Christians. You know, and it's like it's good to have a mix where it's sort of like, you know, you can get hairy, but it's I see the sport. You know, it's fun. Yeah. But and it's a good mix. It's a good mix of crew. So yeah, no, I've been enjoying it. It's an fascinating thing.
I've gotten to know so many interesting and knowledgeable people about so many different subjects through mixed mental arts. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I flicked that one that you and Mike did to a mate the other day, which is a great one. It's just fascinating. I mean, it's just there's so many people out there having like unconventional lives and stuff.
For sure.
It's kind of, I don't know, like it gives me hope. I think it's good to have people talking more, because when you see like a celebrity, it's like, okay, this one rapper got really big and like now he's worth millions, but your chances of being that next rapper are like, they're pretty slim. Like, you know, you could practice rapping all the time and, you know, link up with the local community, meet people, gradually build up your skills, you know, but it's like the odds are fucking tiny. Yeah. It's cool to sort of see like other examples of people not necessarily doing the conventional thing, but they seem to be enjoying themselves. That's what gives me a lot of hope, I guess, at least for the scene. I just like hearing about, like, you know, like Jenny's husband's, like his stonework. That podcast was amazing, you know, which like completely like, you know, made me think about like all the old archaeology stuff completely differently. You know, it's just like so many different crew out there doing interesting stuff. And I think it's a really good thing. Yeah. Anyway, do your little wrap-up things,
man. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks. Thanks everyone so much for watching another episode of the Mindgasms podcast. This was an awesome conversation. And yeah, like I always say, thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed to my channel, and to everyone who likes this video, and to everyone who's contributed to me on Patreon. And thank you so fucking much to anyone else who does any of that too, subscribes to my channel or likes this video or contributes to me on Patreon. I really fucking appreciate it, and allows me to do more creative stuff like this. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all. All right. And keep having orgasms, everyone. And you got any plugs there?
Nah, man. Nah,
No?
it's so chill.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
Right.
yeah, peace.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks so much for talking, man. And yeah, I
Easy,
totally
dude.
want to talk again for sure.
Yeah, I'll just try and come up with something that I don't know. Like, I feel, I don't know. I'm sure you got like a lot of experts, you know. Like, I don't know. People come on. Like, I'm good at talking in pubs, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm at that level. Next time
Yeah,
I
me
try,
too, man.
I can be a talk expert shit about some omega-3 stuff, but that gets pretty dry and boring.
Yeah,
You know, it's just fun to have good conversations and just let it flow wherever. Hey,
for sure, man. Yeah, this is great. Yeah. All right.
cool.
Well, yeah, thanks so much, man. And thanks everyone so much for watching, and adios until next time. Keep having mindgasms.